Hello, folks. Welcome to Boatrek Live for a very special edition. We've been talking about this damn show for so long. This particular season of Picard, Star Trek Picard, that is. And why is it special? Because it's the next generation reunited. But of course, we don't want to say that too much. It's not a reunion, as Patrick Stewart would say. And I am joined. My name is PJ, and I'm joined, of course, by Braxton and his cat. What's your cat's name again?
This is Ahsoka.
Esri. Ahsoka. Okay.
So I have two. So this is Ahsoka, and the other one, the gray one, is Ezra.
Welcome. Uh, let's start. Um, so with all the hype around this season of Star Trek Picard, mainly because let's a little bit of history. One of the conditions that Patrick Stewart had uh, when he was asked to return to Star Trek, besides the dump truck of money they poured on his lawn,
Mm.
was that he didn't want to do a TNG reunion style show. He wanted it to be about Picard and new characters, with some cameos here and there. Riker and, of course, Troy and their daughter were introduced in season one. And in season two, it's like Q and Guinan and I suppose with the failure or the critical failure, I would say, of the first two seasons, uh, at some point during the production of season two, they let Terry Metalis go off and develop season three. Almost, he had almost carte blanche. Like they just said, do what you want, and he changed so much. One of the things is there's no more opening. It's just a title card. They have the names of the episodes, like part one, the next generation, which is the name of this episode, and they have these really cool end credit scenes, which, by the way, I've been told, look closely at each one of these because each episode will have a different end credit sequence, much like what happens at the end of a Marvel TV show,
Oh wow.
where they have like visual indications of stuff to come, perhaps, or uh, little hints and Easter eggs here and there. By the way, overkill on the Easter eggs and references and just I understand they want to show the fans, hey, look, we know the history of the show, and Terry Metalis is personally wanting to show them that, and the L cars and the ship designs. Yes, it's underlit. I've been told the entire season. I don't know this for sure, but I've been told it has a noir look, meaning like underlit, moody lighting all the time, and sometimes it's hard to watch. Like you actually need to watch this show in a dark room. I know I'm going on and on, but just my basic, just to, in a nutshell, I had fun. And if Riker wasn't there with Picard, and it was the same situation with different characters, it would not have been as interesting. And I gotta say, I'm eating the member berries. I know the nostalgia plays a big part, and I don't mind. Like some others have said, just give me a good story with the characters, and Riker feels like Riker, Picard feels like Picard. There's no, it doesn't, the dialogue is much better. It doesn't feel pretentious and fucking like unnecessarily poetic. Like, mm, it's just. Anyway, Braxton, what did you think of the first episode of season three?
So I do agree with you. It's kind of dark. Like it reminds me of past seasons of Discovery, like with its lighting and like how it feels. Like I remember, like I mean, because Discovery has changed in the last few years, but like I feel like Discovery just had like a very dark tone, and I don't mean like about the storylines, just like the way it looked. So, to me, like it looks consistent with some of the newer Treks that I've seen, because like I said, Discovery like looks like that. Like Strange New Worlds is like super bright and stuff, but Picard, Discovery like have like the same look to me. But I thought it was solid. I think that Patrick Stewart is obviously such a well-known and good actor. Him and um damn, now I'm blanking the
Jonathan
dude's name.
Frakes.
Him and Jonathan Frakes, they have great chemistry, and it's nice to see them that they can so easily rekindle it, like the last two seasons, like after like the years of like not being apart. But they've been on screen a lot together, and they've got absolute excellent chemistry. Um, I had complaints about this episode, but I did think it was solid. I didn't think that it hit like gangbusters. I thought it was more subtle than, say, for instance, the first episode of last season. Like the first episode of last season, you had all that action.
I
Like,
actually liked the first episode of last season better, even though that season turned out to be what it was.
dude, that first episode, dude, it hit like gangbusters, dude. I remember like watching that, dude, like multiple times and feeling like it was like the best episode of Trek I had ever watched.
The
Um,
promise of it was so good, and then the payoff was so not. It retroactively almost like ruins it. The ruins the experience
mhm,
of that first episode because it has such
mhm.
a promising setup, and it just screws the pooch.
I have gone on record as saying that I do not like the show Picard. Um, you know, I'm gonna watch every episode at like 5:30 a.m. because I love Star Trek. So as soon as I can watch it, basically, that's what I do. Um, I don't have any faith in season three, just based on what I've seen in seasons one and two already.
I, I I have my doubts as well, and I understand people who do. Uh, Starfleet Boy says, "Hi, I'm at a party, but I'll try to hop on."
Oh, shoot softly, boy. Mm-hmm. Partied up Friday night, dude.
But I
Everybody in
think,
the club getting tipsy.
like you said, that chemistry between Frakes and Stewart, not only like it could have been very easily, you could have had this episode reunite Picard and Riker and them go on the same adventure. But if that dialogue wasn't written the way it was, and I'm pretty sure like Frakes has talked about like it's it's better to have like actors respect the script, and he talked about it in an interview with on Inside You with Michael Rosenbaum. He talked about more so nowadays like actors will be like I want to do that, they want to change it, and it's like, and we know for a fact because me I wouldn't say I interviewed him. Sean interviewed Noah Averback Katz, who played the Andorian. He's actually the husband of
Mary Chiefo. No,
no
he's Mary
Mary
Chiefo.
Wiseman.
Mary Watson. Sorry, dude.
Is it Mary? I'm forgetting the names of the cast
It is
of
Mary Watson.
Discovery. Oh
Yeah,
my god,
the
yeah,
redhead, Tilly.
Tilly, and he talked about like there is no room for actors to be like, can I change this or say this instead of that? It's like no, it's word for word.
Mhm.
And if that's the case, then Terry Matalas did write this episode. I'm like, he's really good at writing these characters. Like he has a feel for how these guys would talk to each other, and it's a cliche thing, like two old dudes out of retirement going into like a gun battle talking about their aching joints. It's like Lethal Weapon 4 or 5 or something. It's like too old for this shit kind of vibe. And it's like, yeah, I know. It's very Hollywood. It's very, but it works. And in the and really, it's simple. They're only there to uh, go to a place and rescue Beverly, and that's the entire episode.
Mhm.
Aside from the B plot, which has to do with Raffi. Raffi's an interesting character, and she becomes more interesting. And I know people like say she gets the shitty end of the stick too much, and I spent a lot of time in season one pitying her because she's piss loaded drunk, and they're saying, "Can you contact your old girlfriend so we can get into this the Borg reclamation thing?" And they're like forcing her to do this stuff while she's clearly in need of help. And there's never a moment where Picard as a character goes to her. He just kind of like sits there and watches her fucking and does it's Rios that actually is supports her, right? And goes into her quarters and talks to her, and like this is very strangely handled, like the way, and this whole thing with her son. Her son's so mad at her. I'm like, seriously, dude, what the fuck did she do that was, yes, I get it. Like, she was a drug addict and she neglected you. But did she like abuse you? Like, what was the extent of it? Because I'm really wondering why you're so hostile toward her to the point where you're like, you can never see your granddaughter. And we get a hint of that in this episode. She's looking at a picture of her granddaughter who's like, I don't know, 3 years old at this point. And it's like, if they don't give her that reunion, if there's not a point in this season, because I waited for it in season 1 and there was no time for it in season 2. But if they don't give her that point where she sees her son, you know, the guy from the Scream franchise now, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son, I forget his name, but and his Romulan wife, there should be a scene where she goes to them and this is your grandmother, and the little girl's like, I don't even know who you are, and it's like a bittersweet kind of thing. But they've hinted at it since season 1, like this thing with her estranged son and her not being able to see her granddaughter. And on top of that, she's doing an undercover job. Like they laid on thick with this character. She's doing an undercover job in which she has to play a junkie to get information about terrorists from a high-ranking, apparently, drug guy who deals literally on the streets, which doesn't happen in any society, I don't think. That's a little suspect. But he does give her the information about the Red Lady, which turns out to be a statue of Rachel Garrett, the captain of the Enterprise C. But on top of having to play a drug addict, she has the physical drugs. You know, people are doing eye drugs because, you know, they're all obsessed with eyes, eye violence. Now it's like eye pleasure. Like they're trying to dial it back. Like, no, we're not stabbing the eye anymore. We're putting drugs into it to make it feel good. I don't know. But then when she finally figures out the what is it? I was gonna say Red Angel, the Red Lady thing. She gets there just too late, or just in time to see it happen, and I guess the weapon messes up the comms, because I think that's a result of the. I thought it was like maybe the bad guys know she's there and purposely scrambling her communications so she can't warn this Starfleet outpost. But then she has to physically witness her failure in like horrid detail in terms of like a building being sucked into a portal type of thing and then being deposited like a kilometer over or something like that. And people have said Michelle Hurd's overacting in the episode. I think of her response or look of horror that she has when she sees that happen, it's so intense, because I think part of it is an indication of like they're telling us she's not going to last. If somebody doesn't come along and help her, Worf, if somebody doesn't come along and help her, she's going to go down a very dark path. And they can't do that to her. It's too much to lay on this character after 2 seasons. She loved Eleanor in season 2 all of a sudden, and then he dies in front of her, and she's all fucked up over that. She's mad at, like, it's weird. They need to give her character some justice for Raffi, is what I say.
Dude, justice for Raffi, dude. But you know, it is not Raffi's fault, dude. I feel like it's her handler's fault, dude. Like the handler was like her and the handler were having like a conversation for like 90 seconds. You know, like at the end of the conversation, you know, they're like going back and forth. He's like showing her images of like her like Starfleet record and like using drugs and stuff too. And then at the end, the handler's like, "Oh, So by the way, there's going to be an attack. Like it seems like you got to start right at the top with, oh, there's going to be an attack, and then we need to do something. Like, hey, who knows, dude? Like those 90 seconds that they spent having casual conversation, dude. Like hundreds of lives could have been saved. Like maybe like if she got there 90 seconds earlier, like people could have been like running out. Like I understand the building was like huge, so like everybody couldn't have got out, but maybe some, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, Rafi's had a tough way to go, dude. I mean, you know, I mean, who like the depths of addiction, you know, like you know, who knows how bad things could have got with Raffi, you know, when her son was growing up, you know, and like he got out of there and he's like, oh my God, like I never want to be around that or subject my daughter and my wife to like my mother's habits and her lifestyle, you know, like I mean, you know, we don't know. It could have been horrible for him, like extreme neglect and things.
And
Um, but you know,
you,
one thing that I appreciate about like I want Rafi to have you know a more dignified storyline, but like a thing about like because I mean I know some people who are addicts, and it can be very difficult to shake drugs. People get on drugs, get off, and right back on, and they just seesaw back and forth. You know, so like addiction can be a lifelong thing. You know, so like I can appreciate that about Rock's story.
and yeah, like yeah, I guess like the son's point of view is like being a part of your granddaughter's life may not be the cure for your issue. You have to sort that out first. And clearly, she doesn't do that in season one so much because they have to literally restrict her alcohol consumption at one point on La Serena. I almost forgot the name. But now she has the ship La Serena. She's a secret agent. Worf is her handler. We know this. Let's not beat around the bush. It's Worf. And somebody, I made a joke in a chat somewhere, like, if it's Worf, why don't they just show him? If we know he's in, like, they're like, that's so stupid. Like, they're making this mystery where like the texts are like, "You are a warrior." You're reading the text, and the texts are said out loud in a female computer voice, as if to trick us into thinking it might be not Worf. And it's like we know it's Worf. We showed it in the character description. And Michael Dorn has talked about he loved working with Michelle Hurd. Ruben is laughing. He's muted though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm playing my game. I don't want the keyboard.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
Madness.
Ruben, what's up with you, dude? How are you tonight?
I'm good. Good. Playing
Did you
a little New World.
did you enjoy Picard, dude?
Oh, it was awesome. I haven't watched it.
No.
Oh, yeah, I haven't watched it. I have no interest in watching it.
It's I would say people are drinking the Kool-Aid on it, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think if people are like, yes, more, even though it's like, it's not that good. I mean, it's okay. Like Riker's right, you know that I have to admit, when Riker's in the bar and he's making the joke and making the joke about nobody wants the fat ones, and he's like making a quip at the bartender, and I'm like, one thing I'm always conscious of is like, holy shit, every room that any one of these characters is ever going to be in is going to be lit exactly like this. And there's no break in that at all, except when you're in Chateau Picard. But you
Dude,
leave
the bar
the
scene was nice, dude. Like that was actually my favorite scene of the show, dude. I thought it was cool. Like I really wanted to be there, dude. Like I was totally into it.
we've seen it both in like a daytime and nighttime setting, and it happens to be a nighttime kind of like vibe where the lights low, it's that club lighting,
Hmm.
and it's like cool, but when they go to a ship, it's gonna be like dull as hell. It's I'm not even joking. You do have to watch it with the lights off. There's
Mhm.
something about modern cinematography. It's like these shows now want to be filmed like movies. And the problem with this is they become too accustomed to lighting stuff like a movie. That like TV lighting is different. Look at Ted Lasso, for example. That is a show that is lit like a TV show. You're not struggling to see things in that show. And for one thing, it's about soccer. It's set in mostly brightly lit office rooms, so that's one thing. But come on, there's got to be a ship in this show that is lit like the Enterprise D. Like you can light it like a TV show, but you don't have to make it look cheesy like a sitcom or anything. It just don't have half the frame in shadow. There's so much of that. It's like the opposite of lens flare. I know I'm fucking nitpicking as hell, but it is like the opposite of
Well, it's not even the TV show movie thing, because if you think about it, the biggest movies on the planet are Avatar, which is bright as hell.
bright as hell. Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's this thought that, oh, things nowadays have to be grimdark. And it's like, no, they don't. Most things that are big are not grimdark. Ted Lasso is huge. It is the fucking opposite of grimdark, you know? But they had this thought that, like, this is how Star Trek needs to be. It needs to be like Star Wars.
We've all seen at least an episode of the Orville. The Orville is an example of too far on the other side of it, where it does look like it's lit like a 90s TV show. It's like filler light, and it's just a lot. It's nothing compared to the 60s TV show where they had so many lights. There's like 17 shadows in every shot on each object. It's, well, not 17. I'm overdoing it, but yeah, I want somewhere between what they're doing with modern Trek now in terms of that and how the Orville did it. Somewhere in between there would be kind of cool. But it's either one extreme or the other. We overlight it or we underlight it, but that's how it is. A show that's very well lit. Actually, every shot is almost like just well done. You can't like critique the look of it too much. I find is The Last of Us.
Well, I was about to say, The Last of Us is an interesting example, because here's a show that takes place in a hellish, apocalyptic, dark, depressing world, but it's not a depressing looking show. It looks really nice sometimes,
Yeah.
but it still gives you that sense of like, misery, but still with, just because it's miserable doesn't mean there can't be red flowers and colors. you know?
Ruben, did you play the Last of Us game, dude?
No.
Okay.
Did you do you know anything about this episode of Star Trek Picard? Have you heard the review? Like, have you watched the Red Letter Media kind of recap thing?
Yeah, I watched the Red Letter Media you sent me.
So,
I remember the promise I told you like a week ago.
Yeah.
Do you remember what I said like a week ago? If Red Letter Media covered it, I would watch it.
Yeah. Are you gonna watch it?
I don't know.
You know what you should. It would probably be best to wait, because it really is like the first episode is just a chapter, is just a part in it. Like the whole thing. Okay, if anybody doesn't really want to hear spoilers about the general time span of season 3, but it's been people who have reviewed it have talked about it. It's not a spoiler in the details of what happens, but the 10 episodes occur in a relatively short period of time. It's like once things get going, it is very serialized in that sense. Like, dun dun dun. I don't know, cliffhanger or some kind of hook at the end for the episode 4. And then apparently the first 4 episodes have a particular arc. And then the next 3 or 4 episodes, I think the next 3 episodes have like a particular arc. Like it goes in different places apparently. It's not Discovery style from beginning to end. It's all about that one mystery box thing. And by the time we find out what the fuck it is, we don't give a shit. I've heard that it's structured in ways that if you're not particularly interested in or buying into this storyline, don't worry, it'll change or it'll resolve itself. And one of the things they do in the episode, they don't
Damn.
dangle the carrot of who is this young man with Beverly. They tell you right at the end. Oh, I see. I'm his son. I'm her son. Like he just says it. Like it's not like, who are you? Cut to black. It's like they're telling you.
Right, but isn't the dangle who the father is?
If it's not Jean-Luc Picard, a lot of people hope it's like she found another man after she left everybody and broke off. Beverly Crusher, by the way, after the events of Nemesis, broke off all contact. For one thing, her and Jean-Luc tried to pursue a romantic relationship, either during or after Nemesis, I guess. They could have had sex. It's implied that, because Laris is like, so did you try? He's like, oh, we tried, or something. Like, there's a little implication that maybe he and Beverly, but he was like too polite to say it, and so maybe him and Beverly hooked up. She disappeared.
In my headcanon, she was only ever into butt stuff.
Well then.
Well then.
I would like to know what Gates McFadden would think of that.
In Gates McFadden podcast, she's clearly stated.
Whoa.
Dude, that's hilarious.
I need a sip.
It was nice to see Gates McFadden. You know, I did have a problem with her storyline. I did not like. I mean, 'cause, like, dude, like they literally put her in a refrigerator. You know, like, you know, I was like, oh wow. You know, I don't know about this.
Cryostasis or something.
Yeah, cryostasis.
After
Like,
she
I don't
uses
know.
her pump action phaser.
I don't know about this sun stuff, you know. Yeah, I don't know, you know, like it's just weird. Like, oh, you know, like Beverly had a son, like stop communicating with people for like 20 years. That just seems out of character for the character. And that's the thing about the show Picard. I feel like they do things that are out of character for people that we've seen before. Like, I don't know if it's just like convenient storytelling or what, but I don't know.
I don't know. It's too early to tell. I think what they're doing with Beverly's character. She does survive. We've seen that she does in the trailers, because she talks to Picard about it would only be the same thing. Attempts on your life. I think in that part in the trailer, she may be talking about the kid. Because she disappeared, and Picard says as much at the beginning of the episode. But when we see her ship, at the very beginning, when we see her ship, they're playing the Ink Spots, which is a band that they've used in the show Better Call Saul. And for some reason, whenever I hear their music, even if it's not the song from the particular episodes, I always think of Better Call Saul, because I've rewatched those episodes so many times.
The Ink Spot.
The Ink Spot. So when the Ink Spot song is like, "I'll burn the world," or whatever lyrics are, something about I want to burn love in your heart or something. I don't know. Their songs are almost like very haunting. You know, they have a haunting kind of sound to them. So
Oh wow!
like, oh my God, they're trying to be Better Call Saul with this opening. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, it's not a bad thing. I was like, they're gonna use some old timey music. By the way, the music is a part of a playlist that Picard made for Beverly over 20 years ago, during the events of Nemesis, I suppose, before she completely fucked off.
You know, I wondered what it'll be like to make a playlist for people at that far into the future. Like, I wonder, like, do like they, you know, like, I mean, do you still have like streaming apps and stuff like that? Like, oh, do you like send it to someone's like personal communicator? Like, oh yeah, like I made you a CD.
No. It was there's a deleted scene in Nemesis where Picard's like, "Oh, Beverly, before you go out for that pack of cigarettes, I've made you a mixtape." And she's like, "Sure, I'll take it. I'll be back in a minute." She never comes back from her trip to the convenience store. um, she's like, yeah, I thought about having sex with you, Jean-Luc, for all this time. When it finally happened, it was so bad I had to fuck off for 20 years.
Uh, dude, I
So
mean, doesn't that seem so out of character? Like, what could have happened? I mean, what could have possibly happened, dude? Like, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Like,
for one thing, we don't know if it's Picard's
It's
son,
that
but
same thing like Luke,
Luke.
just
I'm your
randomly
father.
he's grumpy and old, and it's just like, oh, whatever, he tried to kill his nephew, and that's the only explanation for why he's a completely different character.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, there was Luke the Lost Years. We don't know all kinds of
Right.
psychological.
Well, I mean,
He probably
we
needed
don't know if they're
medication.
going to explain Beverly yet.
He
but,
probably
like,
needed medication for his psychological issues, and
I didn't mind
his
Luke's,
mental state deteriorated over time.
yeah,
He's,
I
he's
mean, I
drinking
didn't
titty
mind Luke
milk
being
right out the
different.
bottle, right out the tit. You know.
Uh,
that
dude, that's
titty milk
hilarious.
would drive him crazy.
Getting
I
back
totally
to
didn't mind.
getting back to Picard, uh, so the episode opens with these people in bird masks, two guys, by the way, and it's only Beverly and this guy, and they do this thing where they don't show the it's Spillers. I'm just gonna call him Jack Crusher. They
So
don't show.
this is the third season in a row that has people in mass attacking in the beginning.
What other? Oh,
So
you're talking about
season
Picard season 1. Yeah, yeah.
and season 2, Borg Queen comes with the mask on.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's a very BDSM kind of trek.
Copy paste.
But anyway, the bird guys, two guys, they hide Jack Crusher because she locks him in a room because she's protecting him, as we find out, because that's her son. And she has this phaser rifle that she has to like cock every time she shoots it, which is what the fuck. It's the 25th century. And it has like, I don't know, 6 shots in it, and then it's done. You can't use it anymore. It's the most useless phaser rifle you've ever seen in Star Trek. And she gets shot trying to grab another one because it would take too much time to find a power cell to replace that. It's like, what the fuck? That's a stupid part. I like seeing, it makes sense that Beverly would be able to defend herself. I like when Starfleet officers, whether it could be like that time when Beverly Crusher had to kick that dude's ass in the shuttle. I was like, fuck yes, because you'd think like, okay, an engineer wouldn't know how to kick ass, or a doctor maybe, or something like that. But Starfleet officers have to know how to defend themselves in hand-to-hand combat. Not only
Yeah.
that, they need to have basic medical training. So I will welcome any example where any Starfleet or ex-Starfleet officer can help with a wound or fight with a weapon or hand-to-hand anything. Sure, some are going to be. You wouldn't see Barclay succeeding necessarily in a battle too much, because maybe you would assume, but who knows? Maybe if Barclay was all of a sudden in a fight, he's like knows fucking kung fu or something. It's like,
Did we ever see Barclay fire
Fight?
our face at
Oh,
him?
he knows how to sword fight, doesn't he?
Yes.
He sword
There
fought
you go.
and,
So every Starfleet officer should have the basic training plus hidden talents. That's what I think, in my mind, makes a good Starfleet officer. So Beverly sends out a distress signal to Picard's comm badge. He's like, my over 20-old year come. It's over fucking 30-year comm badge, buddy. What are you talking about? Over 20? You're off. Like the timing. It's to the timing. Like when he says he hasn't talked to Beverly over 20 years. Yes, that's accurate. But when it's like this comm badge from 20 years ago, it's like, no. Okay, you're just saying 20 years for everything now. When it's more like 30 or whatever years. Anyhow, in a few years, Star Trek TNG will be 40 years old. So Jesus.
Oh wow, dude. Yeah.
Um.
Would have started in 1987, right?
Yeah. So the Nemesis took place in 2379. This takes place presumably in 2401. So that's 22 years. 22 years from the events. Ed Spielers, that actor who plays Jack Crusher, he's in his mid 33 or 34 years old. So I guess he's playing a 22-year-old. Because Beverly could not have had the kid on the Enterprise during the events of Nemesis. It doesn't jive with the established facts. It just doesn't work.
It's an alien child that took longer to gestate.
You mean
Hey.
shorter to gestate, at a quicker gestate.
No, she was
faster.
pregnant longer than anyone knew. She just wasn't. She wasn't showing. That's why.
Oh,
She was pregnant since season 5 of TNG. That's why she started the butt stuff. That's what she went to butt stuff.
That's crazy.
yeah. Okay.
You know, I really want it to be. I hope it's like a misdirect. I really want it to be a misdirect. I hope that like she got involved like with this dude who's like real shady. Maybe he's involved in like the Orions or something, and you know she had to disappear because like you know she's got this boy, and like it's just too dangerous like to have him out there. You know.
Mm, yeah. Well, their job was like a Doctors Without Borders type of thing, like humanitarian causes and stuff, and kind of like David Marcus and his mother, except they weren't. They were scientists. Like they worked together, kind of like this. They're doing. I think that's what they're doing. The same thing here, where it's going to be like, hey, we don't know for sure, but hey, this is your. I think Jack knows and has known the whole time that Picard is his dad. Why would Crusher keep that from him? And I think maybe if that's his dad, the excuse will be, or Beverly's excuse would be, it would mean attempts on your life or his life or something about like Picard having a son could invite enemies to take advantage. You know, that the whole thing about like.
I mean, does Picard have that
heroes
many
endangering their loved ones or something? I don't know.
Does Picard have that many enemies? Like, because nobody's coming to Chateau Picard after his ass.
Well,
I mean,
that's exactly. And this Vatic person has a beef with him. We don't know what it is yet.
I mean, if you're an enemy of Picard and you can't take out a 150-year-old man or a 100-year-old man, whatever he is right now,
He's 98.
like, come on, man. It's such a small world. Like, they're doing the same thing they do in Star Wars, shrinking the universe. So it's all about, you know, why does the enemy even have to be personal? You know what I mean? Like every single time, it has to be this whole like little ancestral spool of people who all have something to do with each other.
Maybe not. Maybe it's
Well, I mean,
more complex than that. But we know this Vatic character has a beef, but in the trailers it's like so it's Vegas shit. You can't. It's so generic. Like not the show itself because we haven't seen the whole thing. I'm talking about the ads where you hear Worf say something is coming, and then Picard's like, it's a danger to Starfleet. It's like, and Beverly's like, trust no one, Mr. Mulder, and it's like. Conspiracy. It's like, I am secretly a bad guy. No, I'm secretly a bad guy. Anyway, can we talk about Shaw? Okay, the whole thing about Picard teams up with Riker to figure out where Beverly is. They figure it out. They go to the Titan on a bullshit surprise inspection that clearly from Captain Shaw must have gotten this message and just said this is bullshit and decided, okay, I'll invite them to dinner and then I'll start without them and then they'll walk in while I'm eating and then I'll insult the fucking shit out of them and see if they crack. And that's exactly what the character does. And as a Starfleet captain, as I pointed out and as Text Truck reiterated on his channel, think about Picard in that situation. In the first season of TNG, you had some fucking kooky retired admiral and his like some captain without a ship surprise inspection, and then they're like, hey, We need you to divert to this completely different place for reasons unknown, and we'll stop by this starbase. Oh yeah, that starbase doesn't exist anymore. Oops. Picard would be like, "Get the fuck off my ship, motherfucker." You know, it would have been.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have said that, but he would have been like, "This is bullshit."
Essentially, would have said, yeah.
He would have called him out. But
Hmm.
Captain Shaw, on top of being by the book, he is an actual like monumental prick. Like he goes out of his way to insult the gift of the chateau, the wine that they give him. They're trying to. He knows this stuff. This inspection is not up to. It's not above board.
Hmm.
Then they're like trying to give him like a gift, and he's like, I prefer this other kind of wine.
I prefer Chardonnay.
Then he
Or
says
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, then he said that's the best scene in the episode with Shaw. I gotta say it. Every time I watched it 4 times, and I'm like, this is the part you really get to know what you like and what you don't. But that's the
Wow,
part.
did you
like,
watch it 4 times then?
all together? Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
even episodes I'm meh on with Trek, I watched like twice or something. But for discussion's sake. But then I really find out what I don't like and what I do on repeat viewings. But I do like that conversation because he's like, Riker, for no reason, he just goes out his way to say, Riker, yeah, all your stupid jazz music, I purged that from the system. I like structure, and he's playing like classical, stuff in the background. And then he starts going in on his prejudice against the Borg, ex-Borgs. And he's like, ex-Borg like you, Picard, or something along those lines. And Riker, well-written stuff. Like the way people respond to each other is much more realistic. Nothing about it is pretentious or like I said earlier, trying to be like weirdly poetic. Like fuck all that shit. People talk like real people in certain situations, and when he says that about Picard, like ex-Borg like you, Riker's like, hey, that's enough. And even though this Captain Shaw technically has more pull or more authority than both of them, because one's a retired admiral and one's a captain without a chair, basically. And he points all that out to him too. So people are like, he's so rude. I'm like, dude, he's pissed. That's what's going on here. When Riker and fucking Seven walk into the room, as soon as he says to Seven, like, you didn't need to introduce them. I know who they are, basically. Like, he's already like, he's not having it. One thing he does do that people don't like because of his prejudice against the Borg, which I guess you're going to find out in a flashback or something. You got to realize in Star Trek, in the different eras of Star Trek, whoever the Federation was at war with, and whoever caused a lot of casualties within the Federation, had an inherent prejudice against them. Like people were like, "Oh, Romulans" for the longest time, until they got over it. People were like, "Oh, Klingons" for the longest time, then they got over it. Same thing with this era now with the Borg. I think at this point people really mostly should be over it and accept that, like, hey, a lot of us were Borg, and we've recovered and we're good. So you don't need to fucking be prejudiced against us like we're gonna, like a chip is gonna go off in our brain and we're gonna betray the Federation or something. But Shaw has that prejudice, and he makes Seven use her name Hansen. He doesn't allow her to be called Commander Hansen. Commander Seven. He says Hansen. And this is a point of contention for her. She doesn't like her position. Apparently, Janeway and Picard convinced her to join Starfleet. She doesn't like her captain. She doesn't like the ship. She doesn't like going against her instinct. She basically doesn't like doing what she wants. As like she would a Fenris Ranger when like something she needed to do, she just did it. So of course she disobeys orders, and she goes to the place that Riker and Picard want to go while Shaw is asleep. And I know it's stupid to say, and it's like useless, but there's no sound in space. We know this. Star Trek does not obey this rule. It's inherent in the DNA now. We don't expect it. But I kind of got to draw the line at some parts. For example, when people are inside ships and they're hearing noise on the outside, like boom, 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 boom. And it's like, I get that you would show that sound effect while you're actually seeing the exterior visual, but the fact that characters can hear like stuff in space on the outside of the ship blows my mind. And Shaw is awakened by the nebula storm. It's like in the distant, like way in the. I'm like, how's that? How's the sound traveling to him to wake up? Anyway, it's
So PJ,
it's not even worth complaining about, but whatever.
I interpreted the scene as him like seeing the light from the nebula. That's what I thought it was.
That's a good way to. It's a good go around in that sense, because it's just that the interior of the ship, and then you're hearing the it's like, I get it. They've done it a million times before. There's nothing new. It's just,
dude, I like that Shaw wasn't a sucker, dude. Like my second favorite scene of the show was when Picard was like, "Oh yeah, like we want to like go over here and like go past Starbase 4," and dude was like, "Oh, Starbase 4 has been closed for 2 years," and then they like go back to Captain Picard, dude, and like he's like stupefied, and then 7 of 9 like picks up. She's like, "Oh yeah, like no, he meant Starbase like 11." Dude, I thought that was so funny, dude.
There's some funny parts, exchanges of dialogue. Before that, going back to Shaw waking up, 7 takes Picard and Riker into a room. By the way, there's a bunk bed scene. Shaw puts them in like cadet quarters with bunk beds, like these 2 old men, and Riker makes a joke about it. I can't remember. This reminds me of my academy days, although I didn't get up to pee this often. And like little lines like that, it's just I know the look on your face, within the context of the episode. It's good. It's good. You gotta savor the good stuff, man. You can't just dismiss it.
I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily think about
that's good.
I know. It doesn't sound good coming from me.
Like, it reminds me of The Last of Us when like Joel and Tess keep talking about like their needs and stuff.
Well, there's a good part where 7 says, "You better tell." She says to Picard, "Tell me what's going on, or I'm gonna throw you both out an airlock." She's very tense. She's pissed off anyway. So like this.
Dude. Like she summoned them to. Like she summoned them. She was like, "Hey."
But she was already on course to the place where they wanted to go, because she overheard the conversation about like we need to save Beverly or something. So she heard some of that, and that's why I guess she decided. But when she takes him in, she's like, "You got to tell me what the hell's going on." Riker immediately says, like, "Whoa," like paraphrasing, "Know your role," like, and he doesn't say that. But he's like, "That's an admiral you're talking to. Like, watch your mouth, basically. Who do you think you're talking to?" And 7 reiterates, like, I'm speaking to him like as a friend. And because they've gone on like 2 seasons worth of adventures, so like, but it's like the chain of command, although broken and there's a mutiny, and like 7 completely disobeys her captain. There is some of that respect for chain of command where people are called out. Even Riker and Picard are called out for like, you're fronting as men with authority when really you're not. One's a captain without a ship and one's a retired admiral. You have no business trying to get a starship to go anywhere. And I like that kind of realistic kind of like take on it. Not realistic, but more realistic than we've had before. I
have to say that I hate what they're doing with my girl 7 of 9. 7 of 9 is like my favorite character in Trek, and it is hurtful to see like her, just like stuck on a ship, being a yes woman. I just like from the first couple
but
of
Braxton, she's completely she is completely free to like go. The ship is not a prison.
She can clearly just go off and be a vigilante whenever she wants, murder people, come back.
she can go back on her killing spree if she wants.
She's as free as they come.
she can go back to her murdering ways, killing people just because they deserve it, or like in this episode, she kind of says like she's struggling with it. Like she clearly doesn't want to be there, but Picard's like, stick it out, honey. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say that.
Come on, toots. He turns into Dixon Hill or whatever.
Do you got that suit you wore on Voyager? Anyway, no, Janeway and Picard convinced her to join, and it's like she kind of. I think part of it she's staying out of loyalty to Picard, like to prove something to him or herself or something. But the fact that she's under a captain that is like that, it doesn't work in her favor. Oh, you're an ex-Borg? We're gonna put you on the Titan. By the way, that captain fucking will hate your guts like the whole time. What? Why is that? Oh, well, his whole family was assimilated and they died, and Picard exploded them at Wolf 359 or something. So, like, automatically he hates Picard and fucking Seven. So, who knows?
Dude, I don't know. I just don't believe that that is within character for Seven of Nine that we've seen the first 2 seasons. And I really like Seven of Nine, and so I don't know. It just really hurts me to think that, like, she's been in that position, like, probably
she's a strange character.
It's probably been like 2 years, dude.
She's been weirdly handled this whole series. Like in the beginning, as Ruben has pointed out, she's a serial killer. Literally, she shoots up a fucking bar full of people. God knows how many people she killed. They don't show it because they don't want to. They don't want you to really know exactly the extent. And she even admits at the end of the first season, "Hey, fuck, I'm just gonna stop murdering people just because I feel like it." Basically, paraphrasing. But what did she say? I'm gonna stop killing people just because they deserve it. Like, what a fucked up thing to say for that character. I would never imagine she would be like that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what they're giving us. She's changed, sure. Season 2, it's like the whole struggle with I'm no longer Borg now, and then she's like, then she has to deal with like being not Borg, and it's like, oh fuck. And then she gets her Borgness back magically. It's like they could have just left her without the Borg parts. At this point, you can remove all the Borg parts. Janeway and her crew were assimilated. They got off fucking both their eyes. I mean, you know what I mean? Like you can fully look like I shouldn't say normal, but you can fully look like the way you looked before you got assimilated at this point in the history of Trek. But season 1 messed with that, and you had Borg who looked terrible after they were reclaimed. They still look like complete shit when Picard, they don't say it, but Picard definitely probably has his eye replaced. He probably has a fake eye. Think of how many assimilated people.
I mean, he's a synth, yeah.
No, yeah. Well, before that, you know what I mean. Like he had an artificial heart. Now everything's artificial. But they're not going to talk about that too much. They may make they may make a joke about it.
Cosmetic surgery has not advanced. Looking at some of those XBs, dude.
Yeah. So that's most of the episode is them getting to the place where Beverly is, and then aside from that, it's Raffi, who's a recovering drug addict, who was a contact, who like I was gonna say earlier, I forgot to say. People were like, "Why wouldn't you just show Worf in the first? Why is it a text thing, and why is he communicating through text? And it's like you're not showing him." I was like, "Well, they're saving money on not paying Dorn for an episode." That's exactly what it is. I'm not even
there.
They're like, Dorn, we could have you on screen with her in this first episode, but we'd have to pay you. So we're just gonna have you texting somebody and a female voice trying to deceive the audience, like, oh, it might not be Worf, but he's like, but the text is like, you are a warrior, like straighten up and all this. Like, that's fucking Worf. That's like a fan person writing a Worf fucking dialogue. You know what I mean? Anyway,
isn't it cool not to show like all your cards and like your whole hand like all at once? Like, I don't know. I think that's cool.
Hmm. People don't know.
Like,
A lot of people still don't know it's Worf. They're
I
like,
mean,
oh well,
he's
it
in the
might be.
posters.
Yeah.
Like he's in the posters. You know he's in the show. That's not a hand. You know what I mean? It's like you having a king in your hand, and I know because I saw you pick it up.
But
Because you went like that.
Ruben, this is what they're doing to Raffi as a character. Catch this, and I guess it's meant to mean something in the end. We don't know yet, but she is an addictive personality. She probably has a lifelong like substance. Like with a lot of people, it's a lifelong struggle, as Braxton pointed out earlier. Sometimes people don't get over it, and it's very sad. She's a recovering drug addict. What is she doing? She's a Starfleet intelligence officer playing, faking being a junkie. In order to buy drugs off of this, is he Orion? I don't know. I can't remember.
I think he is.
He's
Is he blue or green?
He's look green to me. Some people say he's blue. I'm like, I don't know. I'm bad with colors, so. He looked Orion to me, anyway. So she goes to buy drugs off of this, granted, high level, like King of the Underground type of dude, who's just sitting at like a shawarma bar, in a food court kind of like outdoor situation. People all around are doing eye drugs. The obsession with fucking eyes, it's insane. We know that okay, I won't get into it yet, but okay, she goes to this guy and she's like, you know what? I was in Starfleet, and if I could only give them some cool information about a terrorist or something, he's like, stop asking questions, and like he grabs her hand and like really hurts her, and she's like and she's playing the junkie role. And it's really sad. But here's the thing. She gives him some credits. She gives him some money. She Venmos him some cash. He's like, where are you getting all this coin? If you want, it's for the information. Meanwhile, I guess Worf directed her to him because he somehow knows things about these terrorists. This high-level drug dealer who's dealing right on the streets. Don't make any sense. But then he's like, where'd you get all this coin? And she's like, that's all I got. I'm giving you everything I have to get a tidbit of information to give to Starfleet to possibly for terror. And it's like, how is he buying this? How is he being fooled by this? Because I'm certainly not as an audience member. So he says, all right, the Red Lady. And she's like, this is after the transaction. He's like, the Red Lady. That's all I know. Now beat it. Scram. And she's like, okay, Red Lady. And then she starts asking more questions. And he takes her hand again and starts crushing her hand. She's like, ah! And he's like, I told you to beat it. I never want to see you around here again. This is on Metallus Prime. So she goes off and then she straightens up. And she's like, she's Officer Raffi or whatever. And then she's tempted to take the eye drugs. But she drops it. She doesn't. She does. The rest of her plot is her Googling what Red Lady is. And she finally figures out that there's a District 7. I think it's on the same planet, Metallus Prime. It's just in a different district. There's a Starfleet outpost. And there's a dedication on Ruben just... I was telling it for Ruben's benefit. There's nobody watching except Father. Yeah, I don't know. So she gets there just in time to see the terrorist attack happen, and there's nothing she can do about it. It's bad for her. And yeah,
Poor Raffi, dude.
getting back.
But it was
to
like I
Picard.
said, it wasn't her fault, dude.
No,
It was Worf's fault. It's Starfleet Intelligence's fault, dude.
And then Picard, getting back to the Picard thing, they go on a ship. They find Bev on ice. In the fridge.
PJ, so what?
She find her in the fridge, it's a medical stasis chamber, which makes sense because if you have a life-threatening injury and you can't get the proper immediate medical care, that certainly makes sense within the world to be put in a stasis chamber. But yeah,
PJ, what did you think about the weapon, dude? Sean said he was like, "Oh my God, that was like the best, you know, like attack that we've seen like in Star Trek." And I was like, well, I mean, I didn't say at the time, but I was like, "Oh, is that true?" It
So
was really cool.
the weapon that is used is the one that Raffi's trying to find out. It was the weapon stolen from the Daystrom Institute,
Mm.
possibly along with Lore. So
Ooh,
Lore may have something to do with this
ooh.
because he's at the same place this weapon was stolen from. He's in the season. There could be a connection. I'm not saying there is. There could be.
Mm. The weapon was very cool.
Clearly he's in the picture for some reason.
Ruben, this building, like a hole opened up in the sky and like a building was like drawn into it, and then oh no, it got sucked down like into the planet,
Yeah,
and then
it's like
like the sky.
Portal,
Yeah, it
like the
was
game
amazing, man.
Portal.
It was amazing.
The visual effects in that particular sequence looked like 100%. A far cry from what the ships look like. Everything ship-wise in modern Trek looks phony as hell. And that's not a knock on the visual effects artists, or like it's just whatever's going on with that process just doesn't work.
Would
And
you
I'm not, and
prefer
they're
they
not
be
gonna.
modeled?
The Orville tried to do that, I think, with season one, maybe season two, and they're like, let's just fucking CG everything.
Hmm.
Like they didn't want to bother or something. I don't know. Maybe they probably still used it in the end. But it's almost better to have a combination of both. You know why? Because then the visual effects artists are forced to match the photorealistic model shots. So when you get passes of an actual filmed model, and then you have more complicated battle movements that you must do, it's almost better to have that real life. And I'm sure they do that. I think they actually 3D print the ships, and that's what the CG modelers use as like lighting references and stuff like. But it always looks hazy, and it always looks fucking phony in a PlayStation cutscene. It really doesn't look 100 like the green screen effects that they use in the older stuff looks more photorealistic, even though that in itself is not 100%. It still looks a degree of fake. It's just, it's like your brain knows. It's just weird.
Yeah,
It's
your brain knows, you know.
but when that building collapsed in on itself through the portal and then came out the other part and all the debris, all of that, I looked at it a few times. I'm like, I don't. That looks.
That looks real.
It looks like they spent some time and money on that to make it look as
Mm.
real as possible. But it's always a mix now. Visual effects in anything are almost never consistent.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find a movie. District 9 was an example of a movie that was like cheap and had pretty good CGI for a cheap movie.
Yeah, that had good effects too. Yeah.
Michael Bay, for his as kind of like all of his movies are like like commercials, basically long commercials shot in like hypervision. It's this weird, like, everything's got to be fast and dynamic. His worst movie that he ever made was the fifth Transformers movie, which changed between like 3 or 4 different aspect ratios every shot. It is one of it. It will go down in history as one of the most unwatchable movies
Wow,
ever
really?
made. Transformers 5 makes Transformers 4 look like Citizen fucking Kane. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you seen Transformers 5, Ruben?
Dude, I've seen all the
No,
Transformers
I
movies.
stopped at 3.
The one with
Two.
the Knights of Arthur and
I
like
don't think I ever saw
they're back in the medieval
past part
times and
2.
shit.
Uh,
Anthony Hopkins is in it. Oh my
Transformers
god.
2 is the movie that broke me as a film fan.
Oh, Transformers 2 is Academy Award level compared to 5. Like
That's when I started to question reality, and then 2013 was the year that did me in for good.
Dude, it's hilarious.
Transformers 5 is one of the worst movies ever made.
Damn.
It is that I've ever had the dishonor or the displeasure of seeing. Like, holy fucking shit. I didn't watch Bumblebee. People are like, Bumblebee's good. I'm like, no, I'm done.
Bumblebee was good.
It's kind of like you, Ruben, with Star Trek now, where it's like, I'm fucking done. Like, I'm good.
Bumblebee was good, though.
But now you got to watch Picard because you said of Red Letter Media.
Oh, Ruben, you said if Red Letter
I
Media
made a passing joke, perhaps, to PJ in chat. So maybe there is evidence of this. Yes.
Okay, enough of this Picard shit. Let's go on to the Last of Us episodes 4 and 5. Ruben, you have not seen them. You don't care about spoilers, right?
No, Last of Us. No, I only saw. I haven't seen past episode 3.
I only like episodes. I don't like the. I don't dislike any episode of Last of Us so far, but I definitely like the odd numbered episodes more, it seems. And there are the ones with like the big tragedy in them, like the really hard hitting, gut punching. Like, oh, you like these characters? Nah, see ya. No. Oh, you think because these people are cool that they're gonna live? Oh, you think that like these people who probably deserve to live a lot more than others? No, we're not gonna have that. But here's
no
the thing.
happy endings in The Last of Us, dude.
4 and 5 are like really one episode. That's the way it's structured. I think it's like, except 3. 3 was really standalone. Like episodes 1 and 2 kind of bleed into each other, and then 4 and 5 do too. We meet like a renegade group who overthrew Fedra and now run this city, and Joel and Ellie stumble upon their stuff, and then they're hunted. I forget the name of the woman. Who's the woman who leads that group?
Oh, damn. What is her name? She's a piece of shit, dude.
It doesn't matter because she's a piece of shit and she dies fairly quickly. And the way she dies is like poetic justice. And, I'm going to talk about 4 and 5 as one thing. But when she, at one point when she's trying to find, don't know, forgive me, I don't know the names of any of the ancillary characters because they're not around long enough for you to like learn. But you know, the deaf kid and his brother, she's looking for them and other things. I don't know. And she's like threatening to kill the kids and stuff. And I'm like, you know, I've seen this before in The Walking Dead, like ruthless, damaged people who run renegade groups and militaristic.
The real monsters are people.
The real monsters are people, kind of, exactly, that kind of thing. And honestly, I was a little bored with 4 and 5 right up to like halfway through or like toward the end of 5. And then the thing in the ground, there's like this, all the fucking bloaters and like all these like monsters come up and start like ripping heads off, and all these nasty military guys are chasing the deaf kid and the brother and Joel. I'm gonna say deaf kid and brother because I forget their names. Joel and Ellie, and there's a big action scene. All that's really good. I don't want to get into too much detail because I really don't care all that much. But the strength of the show is certainly Joel and Ellie. Like, I can almost guarantee now that nobody around them is going to make it. And who knows if our main characters will. I don't know. I don't know how the games work out.
So,
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to know. What I do is after each episode, I watch heavy spoilers, comparisons to the game.
Yeah.
Just to see like what they followed and what they deviated from and all this stuff. But then he has an extra spoiler section which gets into like further on, and I never watched that. I'm learning what's going on along with any non-gamer. Like, I don't know what's happening.
Like the sniper scene when he took out the sniper, and was that episode 5? Yeah, that was like a big deal in the game, like that sniper section, you know, taking out that sniper dude at like the end of the street.
All that stuff where he's defending Ellie like from the tower, from the building. with the rifle, and there's just chaos and like all this stuff. Oh, that was very well done. And as soon as that evil lady has them in her sights, that earlier that day she threatened to kill children. Guess what kills her?
Yeah, my job.
A child.
And wasn't she an asshole, dude?
She was a prick. Oh my god.
She was absolutely terrible. And you know, and I think
When she died, I was like, okay, good, all right. Well, you're giving us, you're satisfying the audience in that sense, because like I had enough for in episode 4. I'm like, I don't. And you're supposed to be like, well, what it is. She's cast against type.
she's cast against type. Yeah,
She's ruthless, but she looks like a
sweet
soft,
lady.
a sweet person. She really does look like unassuming. You wouldn't assume she was has this murderous rage within her, where she's like doesn't even care for the life of children.
Yeah,
And it's like you don't have a place in this world anymore. I'm sorry. See ya. And they get rid of her in this kind of like Deus Ex Machina, like she's right about to get the good guys, and like she gets killed. And I was like, cool, that works. But then the poor kid, he asks Ellie, he writes down on a piece of some kind of writing thing that you can erase and write again.
okay, you still inside there, like
Yeah, like a dry erase board.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm.
And he asks her, when you're a monster, are you still you inside? And you're like, oh, that's sad. And why is he asking? Oh, he has a bite. The kid's gonna turn, right? And once you realize this, it's dude, Ruben, it's this part, at least in the show, like the way they kind of like kick the audience in the nuts in a way. It's like, oh, you think you starting to like these people? You starting to get attached? No. What Ellie does, people have complained about, but I'm like, in the context of the world she lives in, she doesn't know any better. What she has is she cuts her hand and she says to the kid, listen, my blood can help you. She has that belief now in that, right? And she wipes her own blood on his wound. And you could say, oh, that's stupid. Wouldn't she know better? Hello, she's been born into this world. Wasn't even in a car before a couple of days ago. Like, there's a lot she doesn't know, and she's completely ignorant too. So her like thinking that could be a solution because she doesn't want to let Joel or the kid's brother know, right? Dude, one of the best kind of like intense, you know what's going on, but it's still intense, is when she wakes up the next morning and she sees the kid just sat back onto her. You can't see the kid's face. And you're like, he's turned, right? You're like, you just know it. But he has to be like probed or activated. Like, it's kind of like a thing where he's just in like a stasis kind of thing. And as soon as she touches him, he's like, rah! And he jumps on her, and it's fucking savage.
Yeah.
And the brother has to shoot him very quickly. And when he shoots his little brother, the shock of it overcomes him. And that acting of him is fucking intense, dude. And he just blows his own brains out. And you're like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, you just had to suddenly kill this kid who's your brother, who you've been fighting to survive with. You knew you had no other choice. He was gonna kill Ellie. So he in a sense did the right thing, but it's like the worst thing he could have done to like his psyche, basically, and he just can't handle it. And Joel's like, oh, no, and boom. It's fucking hard stuff, dude. It's unapologetic in that sense where it's like, this is the world.
It is, you're right, dude.
That way it's better than most of those kinds of shows. But a lot of familiar territory. And like with that weird lady leader. Weird lady leader. I'm glad they're like, yeah, let's deal with these suckers real quick. And the whole thing about the I want to say zombies, but the infected coming out of that hole, I had to look behind the scenes. I'm like, how did they do that? Because some of it looks very real. Like, there's really like actors coming out of this. It's a combination of real people and CG. The CG is added to make it look like more chaotic, and I'm like, it's actually pretty good effects. But that whole staging of that action scene was great. And you got to wait for it. See, like I would love to just like hold off in a couple of episodes and watch like 2 episodes at a time, because the structure of it seems to be like one episode is the setup to something. At least 1 and 2 are, and then 4 and 5 or maybe 6 is like the setup to this new place that they go to, and then the big climactic kind of like action beats happen in the next episode, which is why I think the odd numbered ones are more appealing to me. I don't know. And there's 9 episodes, which would mean the 9th episode is probably going to be. But it's not as bad. It's not as bad as I thought it might. I didn't think it was going to be bad, but I thought it was going to be just like Walking Dead with better writing and a slightly bigger budget. I don't know. But it's not that. It's really about Ellie and Joel, and you can see Ellie evolving, and that fucking when they bury these guys, and she leaves the note on the kid's grave, and it says "I'm sorry."
I'm sorry.
It's like fuck. What are you doing?
Yeah, hit you right in your heart, dude.
It does. It does actually like work, and like I'm falling for this shit. All right, that's how I feel when I get emotional with a TV show or movie. It's like, oh, you fucked me. You're making me feel feelings, you bastards. I want to be emotionless like Data.
The bleakness of this show is very difficult for me. That's I don't know. Like I really enjoyed episode 3. Some people are like, oh, like I was crying, but for me, like it made me feel really good, actually.
What?
And then like,
Why?
yeah, I thought it was a beautiful story, like just like a beautiful story about like
the way it's told. Yes, yeah.
But like 4 and 5 like are just like major downers, and especially 5, dude. When that dude blows his brains out, like I literally felt so deflated afterward.
That episode would not have worked if Ellie didn't have that relationship with the kid, which they build up, and you see them playing, and like it's just little things, and you see the brother and Joel watching them interact, and like it's almost like that one moment in like that school type area that they go to, all the shit in the world is, like melts away for a bit, and you can just have like a time to relax and play or whatever, and then for that kid, her to like. She cuts her hand and puts the blood on his wound, naively thinking that like that'll do something. You're just like, that's how it works.
I was like, you know what? I was like, is that going to work? Is that going to work? And then the next morning we see, well, no, it does not work.
I actually, even though I knew the kid was gonna go or whatever, I still got the jump scare of like, cause it's so quick and like so vicious, and I was like, holy shit. But the show doesn't depend on the infected. Though the infected are like the big action scenes with the infected are like intense kind of like bonus moments where you don't really care when the soldiers who are hunting the Joel and Ellie get killed, because they're bad and they're willing to kill kids and fuck them. But then when the people you like get the shitty end of the stick, it's like, fuck.
It's a downer, dude.
It's a downer. It is a downer, but not in the way where you feel duped or you feel tricked. It's like they're trying to tell an honest story, and that's clear. But you see Joel and Ellie evolving. I think that's the point. People are like, oh, she's not like I've heard things like she's not like she is in the game, and she's kind of like sassy and unlikable. I'm like, that's not her character. You got to watch the show. In episode 4, when she shoots that dude, the first time she uses the gun, like that fucking affects her. It's not like, I shot somebody, cool. It's like there's like moments of like where her and Joel are talking about things, and she's vulnerable. She's just a kid, and the whole thing.
That's how I felt about her, but I've only seen up to episode 3. But that's what bothered me about her too. She seemed like a girl from the 21st century, not a girl who was born in hell.
Well, you feel when the more it goes on, it's apparent that she's a girl born in this kind of time. Like the whole thing with the ignorance of the blood, like someone like growing up like that wouldn't really know. Like you have a basic education probably, but there's a lot of things you wouldn't know. And the whole thing about when Joel in episode 4 is siphoning gas, and she's like, "Oh, what's that? Like, what are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, some of these cars still have gas in them, even though it's like almost like water." He acknowledges that gas expires and gets old and shit.
She never
And
seen a porn rag, dude.
and then yes, exactly. And she's with the car thing. She's like, "How does that work?" And Joel's like, the gravity," and like he can't explain it. And she's like, you don't know." And the introduction of the joke book, the pun book, shows that like she's just a kid who wants to have like a bit of fun. Like she's still just. But that moment at the end of episode 4, when she says, "What's the joke?" Oh, damn it, I forget. Oh no, it's something about genes. It runs in your genes. Something about diarrhea and it runs in your genes. I don't fucking know.
Oh yeah, the joke.
But anyway, Joel back onto her, smiles like for the first time, or kind of laughs for the first time at anything she's ever really said, instead of like kind of like give her a sour look or grimace. And it goes from a point where he's like, "You're just cargo," to like, "I care." It's getting to a point now where like, "I care about you." Like I actually, because the whole thing with his daughter, it's like she's nothing like his daughter. That's the thing.
That was totally messed up when he told her that she was cargo and not family. She was like, "Who am I family?" He's like, "Oh no, you're cargo."
Stress-free K is here. Howdy, y'all. I'm with Braxton on episode 3, extremely hopeful and loving until we see that window at the end. That did hurt.
No.
Is that how it's going to be? Meet new wonderful people only to see them die week after week?
I think that's how it's
I
gonna
don't
be,
know.
dude. Like I think this is
If that's the pattern, I think I'm going to get pretty tired with it by the end. I think that it might be a good idea. I don't know. See that how closely are they following the game? Like, if everybody they meet in the game happens to die, wouldn't that be the pattern of the show?
yeah, it would.
Uh,
Or the game, yeah.
yeah. I don't want to see too much of that. I mean, let's have characters be introduced and like stick around probably for at least a little bit.
I have to be one of the only people on the show that hated episode 3.
Oh wow, you hated episode 3. Well, actually,
Well, I
no,
don't like the show at all. But
there's a lot of dudes who didn't like
You stopped
episode
watching
3.
at episode 3?
well, I stopped watching after episode 2, but then my wife wanted to watch episode 2 and then 3, so we ended up watching 2, and so I ended up seeing 3.
Yeah. You were right. You told me like some people were out there saying like it's one of the best, like way praising it. I was like, well, I know
there were
people
headlines
like it,
calling
but
fucking a masterpiece.
and stuff like that. But some of the YouTube channels and podcasts, people who've talked about it, said that too. I'm like, wow. I'm like, yeah, it's good. But I don't see like how it's so profound. But the criticism was, aside from people, was like, "Oh, gay! Oh, I'm afraid of gay things."
Well, there was plenty of that.
There's plenty of that,
alone, yeah.
but like legitimate, like I didn't like it because it had nothing to do with Joel and Ellie. I want to see more of Joel and Ellie, who are in the episode. But it's like, I thought it was just a nice bottle story. Like there's a show called Atlanta, right? I don't know if anybody's watched it. It's
With Donald Glover. Yeah.
It is. It is one of the strangest shows you will ever watch if you watch it all the way through, because it starts off as a pretty straightforward drama / comedy about Donald Glover's character and his rapper friend and everybody surrounding him. Then the last 2 seasons, it just goes off in like weird like anthology style directions.
Oh wow.
The last I won't get into spoilers about what particular episodes are about, but they're good. It's good. It's thoughtful, weird, kind of like thought-provoking stuff. And sometimes you don't know exactly what's going on. You don't know, in some cases in the show, if what you're watching is actually real. But it's good. And there's one particular episode, I won't get into spoilers about it. In the last season, it's all about the Goofy movie. That's all I'll say. It's all about the making of a Goofy movie. It's a fictional documentary about a black Disney executive who made the Goofy movie. That didn't actually happen. But it's just like the show's crazy. And I don't mind if any show deviates from the main thing to tell like an other kind of story within their own world. If it works, then it does. Remember that episode of Breaking Bad? It's a bottle episode where it's just Walter and Jesse in the chem lab under Stavros's laundromat. It's called, I think the episode's called The Fly. And it's an episode, like, literally, it's like, it might as well be a Seinfeld episode because it's about nothing. There's some stuff in it. Like, nothing happens in the episode, yet it's somehow an interesting episode. Like, Walter hits his head or something and then confesses something, almost confesses about something with Jane. And that's, like, the climax of the episode. And it's like, that's not really much. Like, nothing really happens in it. But it's interesting. I think that's the same with episode 3 of Last of Us, where did we have to spend this much time on characters that are going to be dead by the end? Maybe that's the pattern of the show. Hey, look at these people. Look at their humanity. Look at their love for one another. See ya. Now, the way they died in that episode was by choice. It was through suicide. But then in episode 5, when we get these two characters, it's like, hey, look, love, hope, see ya. And it's like, okay, sure. I don't want that to be a pattern throughout the whole season. That's all.
For me, it was just a matter of the same reason I didn't like episode 1 and 2, is why I didn't like episode 3, which is that characters are dumb just for the story to happen.
Like, what do you mean?
And so, what's this guy's name? Nick Offerman's character is a prepper who stands out in the wide open while being shot at, who doesn't understand basic cover during a firefight. The character's dumb just for that to happen. And then that leads to nothing because he magically heals without us ever seeing. He just, poof, he's healed the next scene. And it doesn't matter.
He's not healed the next scene. It's like 10 years. It's like
well, I'm just saying, it doesn't show us.
It doesn't show
us how he healed. He just, poof.
That particular episode jumps, it goes through 20 years of time. It starts with him like coming out of his hidey hole, and it ends with him like dying with his lover, his boyfriend. And I do appreciate though that last shot with the window, as stress-free K pointed out.
That was a beautiful shot.
That got to me because I'm like, I was thinking, if you pull back and show their fucking corpses, I will be done. I think I would have been like, that would have been. I don't know. I would have felt, but I was like, don't. And they show the window. I'm like, okay, that was well done. I don't know. I liked the episode, not along with a lot of people who fucking liked it, but I'm glad that people were like, oh my God, it was so affected me and so profound. It is a sad, kind of tragic love story. This show is about tragedy so I can't expect it to not be.
Well, that's the other problem to me is like, where's the love story part? They met and 3 seconds later they're banging. And that's it.
Don't you know?
It's called pheromones, Ruben.
Like, you barely learn anything about the one guy, not Nick Offerman, the other guy. Like, you don't see where they really get along in any way. He plays the piano. Wow. It's like, everything's just like, just accept it. Just accept it. We're not going to do any work to actually like, oh shit. Oh no.
Do you ever hear that expression, I wouldn't do you if you were the last person on earth? Maybe when you're with the last two people in any proximity at all, or like any hope of finding anybody else, wouldn't you take what you could get, kind of thing? I'm not saying that these guys like forced themselves to like each other. I think there was an attraction. I think the whole point was that there was the initial attraction. That's and they had the piano thing, the little, and then like they kissed and then they screwed, and that wasn't the love. I don't think there. That was just like, fuck, man, I need to get laid. Let's hook up. We're both in. We both are into it, and then the jumping ahead in time, you have to fill in those blanks and say, well, they made a life with each other. Like, I don't need to see every little detail of how they fell in love. But that initial kissing and then going to bed together, I don't think that was love at all at the beginning. That was just like, let's do this. And Nick Offerman's a virgin, so like, oh, if there's any time, it might as well be now. You know what I mean? Like, what
No.
If they weren't attracted to each other in some way, it would not have occurred. It's just like, I don't think people can force. I think some people look better if you've been away from like sex for a long time or something. Like you have a take what you can get kind of attitude, but I don't think it extends to like you would physically maintain a sexual act with somebody you're forcing yourself to like or anything. I'm not saying you said that, Ruben. I'm just saying I think there was a sufficient amount of indication that there was enough attraction there that it's believable that it bled into it, like a relationship which bled into like them getting married at the end, right before they died.
It was not like that. And their magical.
I'm sorry you feel that way, Ruben.
Their magical, endless electricity, endless water, endless wine.
He's a prepper though.
They live in again, the prepper who stands out in the open while getting shot at.
I admit, like you are pointing out a legitimate.
Is he a prepper? Is he not a prepper? You know what I mean? Like
he's a prepper. He just did something stupid, standing out in the open with people, with who knows how many people shooting at him. That was stupid. I admit. Yes, that
the
was
paint that never fades on the buildings. The fucking in 20 years. This dude's running like a fucking network of computers. They never help a single other person in 20 years. Fuck everybody else. We might as well have survival.
It's survival, man. You gotta.
Dude, I want to see a Bill and Frank show, dude.
Like for me, for that to work, it would have needed way more episodes than one.
Standards would definitely drop in the apocalypse. Now when I look at an open window, I didn't mean to laugh at that. Now when I look at an open window, I sort of wonder if something dark is inside.
That was a beautiful shot as they ended. Like, you saw the window and then you saw Frank's drawing of Bill. It was like, like, this is Bill. Like, as it like cuts away. Like, I thought that was absolutely beautiful, dude. I loved episode 3, dude. Episode 3 is the only episode of The Last of Us that I've watched multiple times. I watched it 4 times.
As guys who've played the game, and more so to you, Brax, because you know where the episodes are in terms of storyline, I guess. Like exactly where it is. Not going too far into the future, what's next for episode 6? Like, where do they go? I never watched the preview for the next thing or whatever. I saw a still of like they're in some place with snow. It looks like.
PJ, I
could be wrong about that.
I never watched I never played the game, dude.
Oh, it was Ruben who played the game. Sorry.
No, I never played the game.
What? Why did I think you both played the game?
I know where it goes. I know where the game goes. Like,
you watched the cinematic kind of movie of it? Well,
no, I just knew a lot about the game just when the game was out because I watch a lot of gaming stuff.
Oh, okay.
I heard a lot about the game, so I just looked into it and learned a lot about the story. And I was like, oh, cool. It's a zombie apocalypse. Cool. It's like
Ruben, I'm kind of the same as you, like just because I'm into games, like, stuff about The Last of Us just kind of like seeps through.
Yeah. So I think I have an idea of where the season's going to end, according to what I know of the game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why for me, some parts aren't working because I like in the beginning with his daughter, I knew his daughter was gonna die, so I was like, okay. I was like, oh, she's gonna die. Like I know that part. And
That
so
young lady did such a good job, dude. The girl who played Sarah, I thought she was so good.
Sarah.
yeah,
Sarah, the
his
daughter.
daughter.
Tandy,
Oh
Tandy,
yeah,
the daughter.
Tenny. Yeah.
That young lady was so good, dude. Yeah, they set us up really good because I cared so much about her. She was such a nice girl.
Yeah, I think we've said everything about those episodes that we can. I can't think of anything else.
TLOU.
You know the you know you were talking about the acting in the show. Like the acting is so good by almost everyone. The only actor that I have not liked is the lady leader who died, and it just could just she's just like written that way. But yeah, that the actor is very much against type. But the acting is so good. Like the dudes who played the brothers in the last episode, both of those dudes were so good.
The brothers, yeah. I apologize because they don't stick around long enough for you to learn their names, and it takes me a long time in some cases to learn anybody's names in any
Wasn't
TV
one
shows.
Sam? Sam was the little one.
See the people. Yeah, I don't know.
William and Sam.
And you know what? The Last of Us is one of those shows I don't watch. I watched the first episode a couple of times, but I tend not to watch these episodes a second time. It's like, yeah, that once was enough. Like I like to absorb like the good and the bad, and it's mostly good. I think I like it more than I thought I would, because I really did think it was just going to be a bigger budget Walking Dead. But I don't know.
I wonder. I mean, I feel like because of
Isn't
maybe
that basically
Pedro
what it is?
Pascal.
A bigger budget Walking Dead with less characters.
So I feel like the actors get paid more. But like, I mean, do you think it's actually a bigger budget than The Walking Dead? I mean, because I feel like The Walking Dead had like a lot more walkers.
Oh my God, she's a mega Karen.
Who?
It's, they say the reviewers call her Karen, the leader whose brother died.
Oh, Mega Karen.
By the way, there was a. Let's get off this subject now, because there was an episode of South Park that pokes fun at Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. It's one of the best episodes of South Park. And like sometimes an episode of South Park, most of it's like, okay, sure, you're this topical kind of like thing that's happening now. First of all, it's about the Queen of Canada dying, and Ike is really sad, right? And the Prince of Canada and his girlfriend, it's supposed to be Harry and Meghan Markle. They go on a worldwide privacy tour. They're like, we need our privacy, but they're like shouting it and they're like making themselves known. So like it's basically pointing out the hypocrisy of these ex-royals who like just want to be left alone, yet they have a Netflix special and a podcast, and they're always doing interviews and always complaining, and like, so it's like poking fun at that very effectively. And there's a whole section where it's like showing a montage of them going on the world privacy tour in this style of an old Beatles song. It's like, it's the worldwide privacy tour, and it's like they're just begging for attention in every scene. And they move across the street from Kyle, right? And they're like making noise and they're making all kinds of a fuss, and whenever somebody like looks over at them, it's like, hey buddy, why don't you respect my privacy? And it's like, oh God, it's just so it's fucking good. It's the way, oh my God, I had such a good laugh.
Poor
And
Meghan Markle. I have sympathy for her.
I don't want to go all Pierce Morgan on you, but Anyway, but there's a hypocrisy there of like, just leave us alone. You're purposely in the public eye, like relentlessly being interviewed and being on Netflix things and podcasts, and nobody likes you, nobody wants you, yet you keep showing up and you keep saying, "Leave us be, leave us be."
That shows a real lack of sensitivity when you say that no one likes her. I don't think
No.
that's
Nobody
true. I
likes
think
them.
that a lot of people,
Nobody likes them as an entity.
like, I don't know, like
I have no sympathy
the
for royals. Like, I'm sorry. It's just I know I'm Canadian. I'm supposed to like kiss the Prince King Charles ass and all this stuff. Like, fuck
there's
that shit.
so much toxicity around Meghan Markle. I think that, like, I don't know. I have a lot of sympathy for her because I feel like people
Oh,
discriminate against her based on her race.
oh
Um,
well,
you know,
that's their own problem. That's nothing. A lot of people a lot of people don't like both of them, and it has nothing to do with like how like the color of their skin. If anything, it's probably their own family that has a thing against her more than anything, because they're known for being fucking prejudiced like that. Like, it's like, look at like what's his name, Philip. He's been on record making like insensitive jokes about race and all this stuff. But it's like the royal family, they're such tight asses, and they're blue bloods. You know the whole thing about blue bloods.
mhm.
And it's like, if you bring somebody into the family bloodline that's not fucking related, it's like, ooh. And then and the racism on top of that is like, your girlfriend is not white. Oh, and that whole thing that Harry said about they question like how dark the baby would be. I believe that 100%. But at the same time, like, I get they want to make their money and stuff, but I don't care. Like, I understand Meghan Markle had a hard time. Princess Diana had a hard time. People from the outside have a hard time adjusting into that psychotic lifestyle because it's fucking psychotic. Like, they go around like their shit don't stink. And of course, if you're going to get into that, you're going to have problems. But they're free as birds now. Like, they can do whatever they want. They have money.
Fucking
Well, I'm
writing
just
books,
saying,
got TV
but,
shows and shit.
the South Park thing, and South Park does this a lot. They just poke fun at hypocrisy. And this is, I'm not saying the characters in the South Park episode are a direct translation of the real life people, but it's just it's just making the point of rich privileged people with this attitude of, we just want to be normal, but you're flaunting your privilege in every chance you get, and then at the same time saying, I'm just down to earth person. Like, no, you live in a different realm than other people. You have opportunity that others do not, and you come from a royal bloodline. Good, you got out. Good you got out. Not good people.
I basically don't
But
believe those people are human, so I have no sympathy for them.
well, they say the blue bloods, they want to keep their genetic line intact because to keep the transdimensional Anunnaki lizard blood. And then if you look at any one of the royals, pure bloods or blue bloods, real close, you can see that they are not human. That's a really old conspiracy theory that was like started in the 80s or something.
The Anunnaki, yeah, well, that was
The
by David
Anunnaki,
Icke.
are transdimensional aliens that have
Yeah, it was David
controlled
Icke.
government official. David Icke, yeah, David Icke.
Oh shit!
You know what? This world is so crazy. No, I don't think they're so bad that they're actual interdimensional aliens. But you
Oh
could
no, I
you
don't,
could
no, I
you
don't
could
think
you
that,
could
but
you could
there are
see
people
why
who were born
some people
rich.
who aren't all there would draw that conclusion.
Like, there's studies that show that when you start making a certain amount of money, you actually start to lose your ability to empathize with like humans.
Oh my god.
Like, you see yourself like on a different kind of plane. And so
Yeah.
now imagine that, but you're born into it, and the amount of money you're making is astronomically more than even the minimum where it starts at the study, which isn't that much money. It's actually a pretty low amount. But once you start making over a certain amount, you start seeing yourself as something
Like how
like.
much? Like 125,000 or something?
Honestly, it was like 120,000, something like that. It wasn't high at all. Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Which is pretty scary, but you start basically losing your ability to empathize.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, they're born into it, so forget about it. They're like they don't even understand the other sense of being.
One last thing on the Harry thing. I watched some clip where he was like, his brother pushed him to the floor, like recently in the past few years. Like his brother didn't like something he said, and like he pushed him down, like a grown man pushing his grown. Like even in like any family, that's like fucking weird. Anyway, enough about
I
the
mean,
royals.
I've had cousins who, as adults, have physically fought. I mean, I don't know. I believe that brothers, who are in their 30s,
I'm not
like
saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it's
fight.
inappropriate. It's usually inappropriate when it does. Nobody's like, "Oh yeah, that's good." Usually, it's like, "Oh, this is fucked up." Like
Yeah.
you're physically pushing down another adult. It's your brother. It's like, um, can let's just move on to one more thing. I just want to say, there's an article from the Hollywood Reporter that came out that said that '90s show rocks big debut in streaming rankings. Now, this is they measure
This is that article that the link wouldn't
that
send.
link that I couldn't send you
Yeah.
for some reason. The premiere of that '90s show racked up strong viewing numbers in the United States, ranking second among all titles. Ginny and Georgia remained number one, and The Last of Us moved into the top 10. Now, this showed Ginny and Georgia, which is the most watched streaming thing. By the way, Netflix always dominates in that area of like the most watched things is always
13 of the top 15 shows last year were Netflix shows.
I don't know
Meanwhile, I
if
don't want to
But
shit
Netflix
on
is
it.
dying. Netflix is dying, folks.
the most recent episode of Saturday Night Live made a joke about how Ginny and Georgia is the most popular thing, yet nobody knows what the hell it is. I didn't know what it was.
I'd heard of it, but I don't know much about it.
It said that '90s show, which premiered on January 19th on Netflix, had a 1.59 billion minutes of viewing time for the week of January 16th to the 22nd. By the way, it's a show that I watched and I like, and I want to see more of.
And consider that it's only 20-minute episodes.
But
So
it goes by quick. You binge it.
that's-
It's a good
That's
watch.
a massive amount of repeat viewings to get to those
Is
minutes.
Ryan,
That's
what's
true,
his name
yeah,
in that?
It counts too.
Either repeat viewings or unique viewings. One of the two or both. A combination.
What'd you say, Braxton?
Is Ryan, what's his name in that? The dude who was in Green Lantern?
No. Ryan
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds? No, he's not in that '70s show.
No,
Ashton
Ginny and
Kutcher?
Georgia.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, it's Ashton Kutcher's in it?
I don't know anything about Ginny and Georgia.
Oh, okay.
That's the joke they made on SNL. It's like it's the most watched thing right now, and literally everybody you asked are like, I don't know.
Like, what show? Who's in it?
I want to see the minutes for Star Trek shows. That's what I'm interested in. Anyway, it says that viewing on that '90s show that works out to 26.5 million hours, or almost 65% of the 41.808 million viewing hours worldwide that Netflix's internal rankings measured for that week. The 1.59 billion minutes for that '70s show, a sequel to that '90s show, a sequel to that '70s show, came in a little behind the 1.8 billion minutes for Ginny and Georgia, which three-peated as the top overall title in the Nielsen rankings. The mother-daughter drama, which I've never heard of, has 7.05 billion minutes of viewing over the first 3 weeks of 2023. The Last of Us, meanwhile, grew to 837 million minutes with a full week of viewing on HBO Max, up almost fourfold from the 223 million minutes in the few hours after its January 15th premiere. That's a bigger jump than House of the Dragon made the week after it premiered in August. The Walking Dead, 1.1 billion minutes, was the only other show to get over the billion-minute mark for the week, finishing first amongst acquired shows for Netflix. Disney Plus's National Treasure: Edge of History, which is very popular. I've never watched it.
Disney Plus. Okay.
It's crazy how
Somebody
much the
wants
show.
to join the panel. They said there.
Oh well, no, we're almost done. Sorry,
Dude, there's too much shit to watch, dude.
we're on our very
You can't
last
watch
topic,
everything.
and it's 2:00 in the morning where I am. But thanks for your interest. Chaotic Truth Live says Star Trek is complete trash now. I'm somewhere in. I'm in. My personal view is it's in between.
I
and
gotta
complete
say, I am
trash.
fascinated by the reaction to this first episode.
Of
It's been
Picard.
interesting.
People love
It's been
it, man.
interesting mix.
Are you gonna watch
Well,
it now?
no,
Or
some people love it, some people don't. Some people are like, "What? I guess, whatever."
are you
Ruben,
gonna
you
watch
should
it?
watch it, dude.
No, fuck that shit. Life's too short.
But just the very last thing before we go, and we're gonna sign off. The top 10 in the top 10 in streaming views in minutes. At 10, we're gonna do a Dave Letterman's top 10. At 10, there's a tie between Criminal Minds and Friends. Friends is one of the worst shows ever made. It is complete fucking garbage. I can't believe I watched it as a kid for as long as I did. I watched the first few seasons, I think, and I was like, no. I hate the show. I think it's god awful, but it's sustained a viewership that boggles my mind. So both Friends on HBO Max and Criminal Minds both came in at 659 million minutes. At number why are there 2 10s and 2 8s? Okay, I guess 8 is a tie too. So 9 and 10 were a tie, and 8 and I don't know. It's weirdly written. But 8 is also a tie with Bluey on Disney Plus. Don't know what that is. Kids show, I suppose. It sounds like.
Good job.
NCIS on Netflix, both at 695 million. At 7, it's Wednesday, which I couldn't get through.
Wednesday was so good, dude. I loved it. Okay, yeah.
At 711 million minutes.
Did you make it through the dance scene, dude? No, you did.
Didn't make it.
Well,
I
yeah.
didn't make it through the second episode.
Wednesday's okay. It's kind of a CW show.
It's very,
Very
ugh.
good CW show.
I'm glad people like it, but it's not my like.
Like I watched the whole
I-
thing, but I don't like. I'm not crazy about it. Like as everybody else, I'm just like, it was alright.
I love the Tim Burton Adams, not the Tim Burton. Why do I say Tim Burton? Tim Burton like Adams Family movies, but Barry Sonnenfeld directed those, didn't he? I don't know, can't remember. But I like the 90s, and nothing has lived up to that in my mind. Like the Christopher Lloyd, Uncle Fester, Raul Julia, Angelica Houston.
That yeah. Uh-huh.
You
Her
know,
Morticia
Christina
was
Ricci,
so good.
Like, nothing, even Thing. He was the best. Nothing has come close in my mind. The Last of Us, number 6, 837 million. Number 5 is something I can't pronounce. Coco Melon?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is that?
Disney
Is
Plus.
that a kid show?
No, it's on Netflix. It's 800. I don't know.
I think it's
Is that a kid show, Ruben?
like an animated kid show. I think.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
At 885 million. Number 4 is Vikings Valhalla on Netflix.
An
975.
American YouTube. Oh.
Vikings has more, and it's weird. I don't know. This list is weird. And number 3 is The Walking Dead 1.1. Then 90 shows number 2. Then Ginny and Georgia. So the 90 show is pretty popular. Ginny and Georgia I might just like check out whenever I get Netflix next. I still haven't watched the Squid Game.
No. Yeah.
But I only have Netflix intermediately. I don't know. All right, guys.
Ruben, I have one question. Ruben, are you gonna play Hogwarts, dude?
Nah.
No.
Not my kind of game.
Okay.
I'm not a Harry Potter person.
Are you afraid you'll be canceled?
It'd
I really find it malicious when
be one of
people
many things
when
I'd
people
be
say
canceled
like
for.
you're this and that because you play this game, or it's like, I'm sorry, the franchise is bigger than the creator in my mind. So like if fans want to stick with the thing that they love, despite like they may not agree personally with J.K. Rowling's views, I think that's okay. I don't think you have to be. Nobody should be labeling you anything. for fucking like I've seen people say if you play this game you support anti-trans stuff. I'm like, that's a harsh thing to like. That's a really blunt statement without much thought in my mind. Don't condemn people who want to play a fucking game and try to it's almost like a roundabout way of saying you're an ist or whatever, right? You're a phobe.
There's just bigger fish to fry than worrying about
Yeah, really.
whether Hogwarts sells 1 million copies or 10 million copies.
Ruben, you don't. I thought you liked RPG.
Yeah, I do. I just don't really care about single player games, and I don't really like Harry Potter.
So it's an open world RPG, right?
Yeah, I love open world RPGs, but I just don't like single player games.
Like you can just go around the castle and go like in the fields and
yeah.
That
I mean, it probably has some sort of artificial locks on certain areas. We have to
so Ruben,
do a mission first.
So I don't like Harry Potter. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say I don't like Harry Potter. Like I saw the the 90s movies or like the 2000s movies,
Right,
but I'm not into Harry Potter. But man, I love the game.
It looks amazing. Yeah.
The spell casting is so cool. The world is so rich. And I am 12 hours in. Like I'm like taking classes.
Are you playing the game now?
Learning potions.
Have you been playing the game this whole time?
I have. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I figured you were playing something because you were looking up at the screen. But
I'm such an asshole, dude.
you
I'm
know
so
what?
into it, dude. The fucking time sucks.
If there was some kind of way, like if one of us is playing that, like we're talking about stuff, and like somebody who like doesn't want to, is not interested, can like look at the corner of the screen with the gameplay. The John Campea show does a thing now where they do a play in chat, and they get much more traffic that way. They used to do like just a super chat questions, and they address them, and they're just in a room addressing all the questions. And now they do it while they're playing like the latest thing, like they did, like while they're playing Mario Kart. And I will just watch it just to see him play like a couple of minutes of. Oh, we're just about to leave, and Fathery shows up. Well, I guess we're gonna have to stick around.
Hey, Father, what's up, dude?
Chaotic Truth
Howdy,
Live
howdy.
wanted to join us, but I don't think do we know? I don't know him.
I don't
Who did? Chaotic
Mr.
Truth Live.
He says Star Trek is complete trash now. I can't argue with people who love newer Trek, and I can't argue with people who don't like it. So there you go.
I can argue with everybody, but
I'll be right
I
back.
like most of the new Star Trek. I have fun with all of the 5 shows that are in
So
production.
what do you think of the new Picard? Do you love it? Do you hate it?
I was mixed on the first episode. But yeah, I just talked about it for 2 hours earlier, but the long story short is that I saw a lot of potential, a lot of fun stuff. It was a beautiful show. I mean, like the ships inside and out look great, all that stuff. But as far and then like the story like really grabbed me. I'm pretty hooked and really eager to see the rest of the season, how everything unfolds. But I did have some concerns, and I am a little worried that it will. I guess my initial reaction was that I was worried the entire season would just be like, oh, remember Star Trek 2? Oh, remember Damara Sulu and Generations? Oh, remember the Ryzakin flute from the Next Generation? I just because there was like so much of that in this episode.
Remember this? Remember that?
Yeah, and so that kind of concerned. And then even like the cliffhanger ending with, oh look, did Beverly have a David Marcus secret child from Picard, just like in The Wrath of Khan? It's like, I don't want to
I think that is exactly what I didn't think it would be that obvious. It doesn't. It seems like it wouldn't be that obvious now.
Right.
But I can't get it out of my head that I think narratively what they want to do, and I don't know this. I really don't know this for sure. I know Starfleet Boy knows it. And Fathery, you could know it if you wanted to. You have access.
His father's got some screeners, dude.
But I think it really is his son. And at this point, you know what? If it turns out, hey, I'm Beverly's son, well, I'm not your kid. I'd be pissed if it wasn't Picard's son at this point.
Oh, I
Because
don't want it to be.
Because it would just be like trickery at this point. It's like, okay, this seems to be a reveal that they're getting out of the way pretty quick, so you can have the rest of the season have Picard and Son and Adventures in the 25th Century.
Like
that
Sanford
kind of thing.
and Son, but Picard and Son.
Yeah, and they run a space junkyard. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Cool.
Wait,
I'd watch that.
Who's that? Why are we getting so many new people? It's weird.
Damien H.
Never was a Star
You're
Trek fan,
blowing
but
up,
I'm also
dog.
no troll either. Have fun, fellas. Strange. What is it? SW up to episode 6.
I think you mean Star Wars up to episode 6 for the win. Man, it's weird to me that people like the Star Wars prequels now.
That is weird, dude.
It's not that they
Those
like them
movies are
now.
trash.
It's like they.
Those are some of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. So true, dude.
But they're full of
They are
imagination, Fathery. Full of imagination, don't you know?
I don't know. If you appreciate any movie that has Jar Jar Binks in it, that I'm glad that you like that, but I can never respect your opinion on cinema ever.
Why do you think I don't respect Starfleet Boy's opinion on anything?
Oh no, dude, you're terrible.
He
Ruben.
once
not-
called
that's
episode
not
2
nice.
the best Star Wars movie ever made.
Oh wow.
Oh, surely not.
I was
With
there
the
in
cricket
real
people
time.
building the Death Star.
In real time.
I hate them.
Oh yeah, then what kind of fucking movie like you make where this dude goes insane and becomes a mass murderer and cuts off the heads of this whole village, men, women, children. Then he goes and confesses it to Natalie Portman, and instead of her like going to Obi-Wan Kenobi and the rest of the Jedi and being like, hey, Anakin is really sick. He
he's
needs
a loose
help.
cannon.
Yeah, he's a danger to himself and others. Instead, she's like, "Oh, I'm not going to tell anyone about your mass murder, and instead I'll marry you." Like, she's terrible too.
Well, Seven murdered a bunch of people and got a promotion. It seems to be a trend nowadays over the last 20 years.
Dun,
Da,
dun,
da, da,
dun,
da, da,
dun,
da.
dun, 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 dun. I used to watch this show.
Yeah, Seven shot up the club in season 1 of Picard.
And who
Right?
knows
It was
what
a
she did
club
as some-
shooting. It was
who
a
knows what she
club
did as some
shooting.
vigilante
Dude, that dude
If
threatened to kill her son.
I know.
Like-
I didn't have that big of a problem with that, but yeah, like.
Or not that
And
dude.
God
but
knows
they-
what she did as some vigilante Fenris Ranger, undisclosed secret Fenris Ranger job that she did.
But she's evolved to not kill people just because she feels like it or they deserve
So-
it or something.
She got
So
over it.
I know something from the next episode of Star Trek Picard.
I know something.
But it actually opens. It actually opens with 7 of 9
Yeah, right.
Murdering people?
stabbing a dude named PJ in the eyes,
Oh god.
Oh my god.
and then Terry Metalis like walks out on the set and looks right in the camera and says, "This is for you, Boatrek."
That would be so cool. Because I complained about the eye violence.
Yeah.
Because there's so much of it in modern Trek. But now they've said no.
Now they
No more
now
eye
they're doing
violence. Now
drugs
it's eye.
in their eyes.
Yeah, now it's eye pleasure.
Yeah.
It's like episode 4. Somebody like I don't know, I was going to say something really nasty. Never mind.
Episode 4 opens with a Ferengi skull fucking a Magato.
Jesus Christ.
And then a little banner pops up on the bottom of the screen that says, "Subscribe now to Paramount Plus with Showtime."
Did you watch the second episode yet?
I
You
can
have.
neither confirm nor deny. But I don't know. Don't I sound like I'm kind of drunk? Like, do you think I would watch Star Trek in this state of mind?
Yeah, why not?
Oh,
Especially newer stuff.
Dude, does Showtime is Showtime already in Paramount Plus already? Dude? No, it's not. That's to come.
They're about to do. I mean, you can like pay extra to get that now, but
Uh-huh. I don't think is it worth paying extra for that, dude? Like I don't
um,
watch anything on Showtime, dude.
yeah. I
Like I
mean,
don't.
they have that show Yellow Jackets that a lot of people like, but I don't
Oh,
know
people
anything
do
That is
about
like
a
it.
Yellow
that is
Jackets.
a good show. It is the female version of
TJ
Lord of
likes
the
it.
Flies.
Isn't Christina Ricci in that?
Yes, it's they take the concept of Lord of the Flies and they apply it to a bunch of teenage girls. Or even they're all young adults. They're not actually. It's like these shows. It's a flashback format too. It's like the characters when they're older, flashing back to the time they were marooned or whatever.
That sounds
It's
pretty
good. It's
cool.
good. It's an interesting show. It keeps you kind of hooked. Christina Ricci is great. The girl from I keep forgetting her name. She's like a New Zealand actress. She's in a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
She's in the show Candy. The one it's like a
Strangers with Candy.
no. She played the bad woman in Last of Us. I don't know anybody's friggin' names.
Oh,
Oh
the,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. I saw her in like the behind the scenes interview that HBO does. You know how
She is.
they always have that shit after the end credits. But yeah,
I
she's
I
she's a
should learn her
Kiwi.
name because she's popping up in so many things. Like she's very good, but she always plays kind of a kind of like
An
I don't know
asshole.
if she's type. No, yeah, no. Most things she's sweet. Like she's really sweet, and then like she gets angry. It's like a lot of things she's in. She's like sweet, sweet, sweet. Oh, now I'm pissed.
Can I tell y'all how dumb I am? I didn't know until yesterday that the little girl from The Last of Us also played Lady Mormont in Game of Thrones. That blew my fucking mind when I heard that.
You didn't know that?
I
Everybody
did
knew
not
that.
know that. No one
You're like the
told me.
last. You're the last guy to know.
I thought she looked familiar.
She has a very distinct face.
Yeah,
Yes, she
I've seen
does.
that kid before.
She's a hell of an actor too because you wouldn't know
She is.
she wasn't American.
And
I didn't know
she's a New Zealander, right? Or an Australian.
I don't Bella Ramsey. Hold on.
You taught me how to tell the difference, PJ, in the accent. You got to listen to the E's.
Well, in Australia they sound like this. But New Zealand it's more like it's like Taika
Sharper.
Waititi's sharper. Taika Waititi kind of is a
Yeah.
perfect example of into the night, and then like Australians like into the night. Master Chef Australia. We don't say shrimp, we say prawns. All right.
that.
They get a lot of Australians up in Canada.
I'm gonna spice things up here. It's getting late. Hold on, let's spice things up. Oh wait,
Spice
what am I
things
doing?
up.
What am I doing?
Oh shoot,
Oh,
dude.
Oh, what are
that
you
was
doing?
rude.
I'm nervous now. You're making me
That's rude.
paranoid. The fuck is going on?
I'm gonna do my impressions. Hello, everybody.
Oh, we're now joined by Governor Schwarzenegger.
I want you all to look forward to my show on Netflix. It's a cheap rip-off of my old James Cameron movie, True Lies, but it has nothing to do with it because NBC has already got a reboot series on the go with a completely different actor. Ah, la, la, la. Okay, now we go to Malcolm McDowell.
Hey, Malcolm, how's it going?
Pretty good. I watched the first episode of Picard.
Yeah.
Damn,
what'd you
they
think?
didn't include me. I'm still stuck in the Nexus, sons of bitches. All right,
They're
now
gonna
I'm
leave
done.
you in there.
They say time.
Yeah, time is the fire in which we burn. You always say that. We've heard it before.
This is a French champagne.
Yeah, look at this fat fuck, Orson Welles.
Don't fat shame me. It is Parmesan wine that makes me this way. And now I'm Saoirse Ronan, a completely overrated actor. Hoity toy.
Better be overrated than underrated, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know what
So-
I'm doing anymore.
A fun selection of guest stars to drop by.
Want to get
Dude, it
high?
was, dude.
Remember Towley?
Yeah, who was the towel that got high on South Park, and then he started working on the weed farm with Randy.
Yeah. Integrity Farms. Um, have you seen we were talking about it earlier. I was because I talk too much. But the newest episode of South Park pokes fun at Meghan Markle and Harry. Now I don't hate them, but I just don't have any sympathy. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like a hater of Meghan Markle. I'm not. I made a joke like I'm not gonna. I don't want to. I was making a joke like I would go out Piers Morgan now because I don't like them, but I wouldn't go that far. But have you seen it? The Worldwide Privacy Tour?
I haven't seen it yet.
It is one of the better episodes. It's one of the episodes of South Park where you're like, yeah, this is a classic. It's fucking funny as hell, man. Whenever they make fun of Canadians for some reason, like it does me in. They've actually made fun of Newfoundland. There's one Christmas episode where they go to Newfoundland, and the Newfoundlander is like a fisherman in a cabin in like this isolated area, which is like the stereotype of who we are.
PJ, that's exactly what I think of. Every time you tell me anything about where you live, I always picture that from that episode of South Park.
And the dude's like, he's pissed off because the government, oh boys, they made sodomy illegal. It's like, because that's all Newfoundlanders do is sodomize each other, right? Which is not entirely inaccurate, but we do other things. But anyway, my point was South Park is unforgiving to everyone. Like nobody, and that's what surprised me. It's like Newfoundland is this part of the world, and even they specifically one episode referenced my city, St. John's. I'm like, holy shit, it's weird. But it made me realize, like, oh yeah, nobody's off limits. Even The Simpsons was like, stupid Newfies and all this stuff. I'm like, holy shit.
Damn, dude.
Because the stereotype is that we're all backwards, Hicks, Irish-sounding fishermen who always go around in fucking rubber boots and have a fishing line on our backs.
PJ,
like
that's what
fucking
you
Tom
are.
Sawyer or some shit.
That's how I picture you. That's exactly you're describing the exact image that comes to mind whenever I think of you.
But yeah, it's funny. But at the end of that South Park episode, when they meet the Wizard of Canada or whatever, and
I forgot about that.
There's a funny line where the Newfoundlander's like, "Yay, I can sodomize the boys again." It's like, oh my god, Jesus Christ.
That shit's funny.
I don't take it personally. I know some people with the Simpsons thing and the South Park thing, people get their backs up around here like, you shouldn't say Newfie if you're not a Newfie. It's like, give me a break. I got in trouble for saying the word. I got yelled at. I said Newfie one time. And a dude thought I wasn't a Newfie. He didn't know or something. This was in Ontario. He's like, what are you saying that word for? Bibbidi. And he was hardcore, like hard accent, right? Like, you don't know fucking shit about nothing and bleepity doop and not bleep, and he fucking cursing and swearing at me. I was like, yeah, I didn't even like have the heart to tell him, like, don't fucking tell me I can't say that word, you fucking idiot. There's a weird thing where people get their backs up if you're like not from here and you say it. It's like the word isn't that controversial. Like the problem was there was an Ellen show. Remember that sitcom Ellen? There was a scene at the end of it where a comedian his punchline is, yeah, over in Canada they got those Newfies. Man, those guys are so stupid. And Ellen's friend in the audience goes, ha ha ha, yeah, that's true, stupid Newfies. That was on the fucking local news on 2 channels. They had people Q&A on the street like, I'm so outraged. Like the first Karens I ever saw in my life, male and female. I mean, not like just like a female thing, but like the first people were like, Ellen, boycott Ellen. And to this day, people will be like, oh, Ellen, didn't at one time 7 years ago she make fun of us? I'm like, she didn't. The writers of the show did, and the character said something. But like, you keep fucking saying Ellen did something to us. There's like these weird occasional instances where people are like, Ellen, I remember that. Same thing with Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney got into a heated argument with the premier of our province. And
Why?
about the seal hunt. And that's always a controversial thing about this place. And Paul McCartney's very much against it and all this stuff.
Yeah, he's a vegetarian, all that stuff.
So they were both on Larry King. This is a big deal. The premier of Newfoundland on Larry King with Paul McCartney and his wife. And Paul McCartney was in Nova Scotia. Larry King was, of course, where he was in America.
New York.
New York. And the premier was in Newfoundland. And they got into a heated argument. And at one point, Paul McCartney is like, at one point the premier's like, listen, Paul, why don't you just come over here and see for yourself type of thing? That's what he was saying. And then Paul McCartney shakes his head. He's like, you can find this probably on YouTube. Paul McCartney, Danny Williams. It's like, no, Danny, we're here for Newfoundland. We're here, buddy. Like that, right? And then the premier's like, actually, no, Paul, you're in Nova Scotia. That's a different province. And like fucking totally embarrassed him anyway. And it was hilarious. It was a big stupid argument.
Paul McCartney does not know the provinces of Canada. He does not give a shit. No one outside of Canada.
We're here in Newfoundland, you know. Actually, no, you're not in Newfoundland. Newfoundland's an island. You're attached to the rest of Canada and this other place. And he's like, well, okay, semantics, man, semantics. You got to play the drums and strum the guitar, you know. It's like, what? Like, I believe, like, it's just weird people arguing over stuff. And it's like, celebrities have this, like, idea that they know more than they do, I think, when they follow certain causes. They have to feel like they act like they know more than they know.
I mean, a lot of people, I think, probably don't know as much as they think they know, but celebrities, they always have someone, handing them a microphone being like, what do you think about this? So
I think it's terrible, the seal hunt. They're killing seals, It's like, yeah, we kill animals all the time in the world. If you want to take a stance against the killing of animals, take a stance against the killing of all animals. Don't pick and choose what you think is cuddly and cute and deserves to live and what doesn't.
DJ, have you ever clubbed a seal?
Yes, he has.
No.
He knows
why?
he has.
Why would I do that?
I mean, I don't know. You just seem like you have. I mean, it sounds like it from what you're saying.
I really hope you joke, because that's a really negative stereotype against Newfoundlanders.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I mean, you just sound like you're like okay with it. So, and you were saying that it happens like where you are. So I was thinking that maybe you had done it.
Well, my argument is that often you will find, and there are people out there who are like, no unethical treatment or no killing of any animals for food, sport, whatever, clothing, anything. And I guess their integrity is intact and I'm against it all, and okay. But there are people out there, I think, who are just full of shit and who say, like, they focus on one particular thing and they say, you're killing this animal, and they don't know the reasons why. And this whole thing about seal clubbing, by the way, seal killing is a fucking brutal thing. There's no denying that. They used to club them with these sharp things, like pick them in their brain, and this is trigger warning. This is graphic stuff.
Oh my god! Don't.
But they used to hit them multiple times and to really kill the brain. It's so small. You gotta really. That was an old thing from years ago. That I think what they do now is no better. They shoot. They don't club. They shoot. And sometimes you have to shoot the seal in the head a couple of times. And I've seen the videos of like the old school, like the old footage of the clubbing, which is fucked up. But then again, that's bad. Okay, I know people with seal skin, this and that, and who eat it, and the animal is used, all parts of the animal is used. But the people are like, that's the worst thing in the world. It's like, okay, well, what about all those cows and chickens that live in these awful conditions that I know you want to say animals, like, people have this idea that, well, they only live short lives and they're only there to, like, feed us and provide for us, and we don't have any kind of empathy. But if you have empathy for one animal, how can you not have it for the rest that are... You can't talk about killing animals that are used for food and, yes, I know it's bad, fashion, which is terrible. But you can't say that and then turn around and go and eat a steak and go and eat chicken comfortably without thinking about where that came from.
Are you saying this because my shirt's made out of baby seal?
Exactly. It's true.
Dude.
But I like the Star Trek view of it, where, and that's why I don't like the part of Nepenthe where the little girl is killing bunnycorns, and they have to put meat, like the meat of a dead animal, on their pizza in, like, the end of the 24th century. I thought that was a bit off-putting, because to me, I think human beings will evolve to stop doing that. Stop getting anything. Everybody will eventually become vegan, but only if...
I won't.
No. Only if...
steak.
No. I'm talking about a long, like, process, not like overnight, like decades. We will be able to approximate, like...
You can grow meat like
things
in a
for-
lab.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we will be able to fake it to the point where it's literally it is the exact same thing. It's just cruelty-free meat, meaning it doesn't come from an animal that lived. It's just grown meat. And people are like, "Oh, I don't know about that." It's like, well, whenever that is perfected, why not try it out and say? And people would argue maybe that would be 10 times more expensive. Maybe we might get to a point where it's way more expensive to eat actual live animals than somebody invents some sort of way to mass manufacture cruelty-free meat, like chicken breasts and beef and all this stuff, so you can have your cake and eat it too, kind of thing.
Then what do you do with all the cows and chickens and pigs that are alive now?
Roam free, as free as the wind blows. Like, prancing in the fields and whatever, man.
Who's gonna pay for that though? Like they gotta be like fed and
let them
taken
grow
care of.
old and die, and not have so many of them. That's all. The only
Hey,
reason
for
so
real,
many
dude.
animals exist in a lot of countries
It's because they taste fucking
is
delicious.
to feed. Yes, they are delicious.
Like cows and chickens and pigs.
I bought 3 chickens today. Like today, they were on sale.
Live chicken?
No. Like whole chickens, but
Mm.
they're defeathered, and that's why, like, I can't ever put myself in a position where I'm like, oh, the poor animals. I'm like, we're all doing it. We're all fucking the world in every which way, the oceans, the animals, everything. and it's only until we all come together and realize, like, hey, we can do better, people. I'm not saying everybody should be vegetarian and vegan. That's fucking hard to do. I tried it. I bought, like, all the vegan sausage and bacon and stuff like that, which is not bad, but it's not the same. It's very salty.
It is. There's a lot of sodium in it. That's
Why
true.
are you doing that, Ruben?
Just ignore it. Don't encourage him, or he's gonna become worse.
Dude, what have we been doing?
I don't know. I haven't hunted any seals. I wouldn't.
Braxton, what's
I
that?
can't. I couldn't kill an animal.
Braxton, what's that
Except a bug.
poster or flag or whatever behind you, like behind your head?
Oh, that's a painting. My friend Ryan painted that, and he called it Powell Mountain.
Powell
That's
Mountain.
it's pretty big. Like it's like 6'4".
Yeah, it looks huge.
Yeah, dude. I love that. I love that painting.
That's cool.
Thank you. I'll tell him that you said that. He'll like that.
I really love chickens in curry sauce. when you put a whole chicken in there.
Man, I like chicken. I like chicken wings. I like chicken and dumplings. I like chicken noodle soup. I like fried chicken, grilled chicken, baked chicken. You can't go wrong with chicken.
Dude, now I have the munchies, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't have the munchies until you said that.
I know. I want to go get me some chicken to eat right now.
I think.
Dude, I want some chicken tenders and honey mustard dipping sauce.
Yeah, some mashed potatoes.
We just went from a conversation about animal cruelty and let's eat some animals.
Man, animals
I don't
taste
wanna eat
fucking
a
awesome.
chicken right now. I just want to kill one.
Animals taste fucking awesome.
That's what I'm saying. Just because something is cute and cuddly doesn't give it dominion over of other animals in terms of value.
I'll
It's
say
a circle
this,
of life, people. A circle of life.
I cooked a steak Tuesday night. I got like this thick bone-in ribeye. That's my favorite cut of meat because you get a lot of flavor out of the bone. You know, and like when you cook it, like there's a lot of like marrow and juices.
Eating animals is essential for our evolution and survival.
Right.
And until we have a scientific way to replace it, I don't mind that. I don't care if somebody says I will never eat an animal, and I don't care if somebody says I eat animals all day, every day.
That's me. I eat animals
Like chicken,
every day.
I'm obsessed with chicken. Because I've cut out beef. Because beef.
Are you stopped eating beef? Why? Is your blood pressure high or something?
No, red meat is just. I ate so much of it as growing up. Like I was such a. Like I was not fed well. It's probably why I'm so short. I don't know. It's like. It was just junk because all the vegetables and like, I don't know if you know what Jake's dinner is like, a lot of boiled stuff. Like, ugh. Just think of like European kind of like sad food.
TJ, I thought you were tall, dude.
No, Jesus, I'm 5'7".
Okay.
I think I'm father and Starfleet Boy's height around.
No, I'm like 5'10".
Okay, well you're
Yeah, father and me are the same.
big man on campus.
Well, Braxton's pretty tall.
How tall are you, Braxton? 6'2"?
About 6'1.25". I say 6'2", but it's a lie.
How tall are you, Ruben? 5'8".
5'10", 5'11".
Okay. Well, I'm the shortest one here.
Starfleet Boy is 5'7", though. Starfleet Boy's kind of short.
Yeah, he's short.
Geek Filter, what's his name? Aaron
Harvey.
Aaron Harvey. He's like, he must be like 5'5" or something, I guess.
Yeah, he's not very tall. I'm gonna see him in person in a few days, Thursday.
I love
When you go
I love
to the
short
cruise.
people.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna do the
that's good.
cruise next year because Antonia thinks she doesn't want to go, and I don't want to go unless I can find a roommate because it costs more. If you're just renting a cabin for yourself, they charge you more because I guess they figure you're gonna spend less money and shit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't made up my mind about next year yet. But it's gonna take off out of Florida, so I like that it's gonna be back in Orlando.
Oh, next year?
Yeah, next year.
Oh, wow.
But this year it's out of LA Thursday.
Mhm.
So gonna get crunk and go down to Mexico.
Hey, dude, that's gonna be awesome, dude.
Yeah, gonna fuck some shit up in Mexico with a bunch of drunk truckies.
Down in the West
Have you met
Texas town
Aaron
of El
Harvey
Paso.
in person before?
I have not. So yeah, it'll be I think we kind of knew each other on social media, but we didn't really talk to each other until 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be the first time we've ever met face to face.
He seems like a really cool guy, dude.
Yeah, he's done like so much work and stuff with the animated series, the original animated series.
Mhm.
So that's how
The
I first...
original animated series?
Yeah, he used to do a podcast about it, and then he wrote or co-wrote and designed the official guide to the animated series book that came out like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But that was like his favorite show, and he was like a little kid in the 70s. And, you know, it never really had much like recognition or anything until recently. So that's cool that we've been talking about that on Starfleet Boys Saturday show whenever it happens.
Given the animated series, it's flowers. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
What was that
Flowers.
Filmation show with the kid and the old man in the submarine?
Kid and the old man in the
It
submarine.
was the same style animation as as Star Trek.
Yeah, you're talking about
Johnny Quest? Is it Johnny Quest?
yeah, yeah. It's one of
Oh,
those
I
type
know
of
all about
shows.
Johnny Quest. Yeah. Johnny and Haji and Race Bannon and Dr. Quest. Johnny's dead.
That's the Filmation show from back in the day, right?
It was a Hanna-Barbera show from the 60s, but yeah.
No, maybe I'm thinking something else. It was very much in the exact style of Star Trek the Animated Series, like that same animation.
Well, Ruben is gone.
And he said, "Screw you guys, I'm going home."
He said, look, I don't talk about 70s animation. Oh, he's back now.
That I just know that whatever show that was, I saw it from a very young age, like around the same time I watched Doctor Who when I was like fucking 3 and 4 years old.
Back
And
in the
I
80s.
remember seeing Star Trek the Animated Series for the first time, like, I don't know, sometime in the 90s when they aired it on Channel 10. Didn't even know it existed. I was like, oh, there was an animated series? I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And I was very off put. I'm like, oh, I remember thinking this is the same animation as that stupid, I didn't like the show like that. I found like that Filmation kind of like slow pace was
Was it
tedious 'cause-
Fantastic Voyage?
I don't know, maybe. It could have been.
There was a Fantastic Voyage 70s cartoon.
I was into like Inspector Gadget. I mean, Inspector Gadget had more like dynamic.
Oh,
and
dude, Inspector Gadget. So good,
it
dude.
had good animation.
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
Dude, I love it.
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
You know that? Do you ever see the toy of fucking Dr. Claw? He's some old man with gray hair. I like pictured him as something so different, and
I
he's
always
just like
pictured him.
he's a skinny old man.
Yeah, I always pictured him in like armor, like he's got like a mask and a helmet on, like kind of like almost like Darth Vader looking or something like that,
I used
like
to love
Doctor Doom.
I used to love Penny's book. It was like a computer book. And I'm like, this. I remember thinking like this could be a thing like in the future, like an actual like page book, but it was like computer, but it's really just like a precursor to an iPad or a laptop or something like that.
Man, they had the best cartoons in the 80s.
Yeah.
Did
We
you
were
like
talking about
X-Men?
Ninja Turtles earlier.
Oh, Ninja Turtles.
Oh, man. Fucking right, dude.
Dude, you ever notice in that original pilot for the animated Ninja Turtles, the first 2 episodes, I believe, the animation
with
is
the
fucking amazing.
Mauser.
And then whatever reason, like as the show goes on, the animation gets really, really bad. I guess it's like different animators and like time constraints, but the first 2 episodes of that Ninja Turtles cartoon are very well animated.
Yeah, with the little robot mice.
Yeah. Remember
And the-
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The
I
new
think
movie. There's a new movie coming out this year, by the way.
Well, I wonder what the turtles will look like. I did not like the most recent movie.
Michael Bay. Yeah.
I only saw the first one. I didn't see the second one. I want to watch it on Paramount Plus, but I guess it is kind of. I know that like it takes stuff for like what was it called? Crane and the
Krang. Yeah.
What
And
was that big-
Baxter Stockman?
shit, what was it? Technodrone or something
Yeah,
like
the
that.
Technodrome.
Yeah,
They totally was like it's
from Dimension
so over
X.
the top. Yeah, it's so over the top. It
Man,
doesn't
I actually
translate
do
well.
remember a lot of that.
It doesn't translate well.
I like that they tried to do that. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on the execution, but
Brad Garrett as Krang. Like, give me a break. Come on now.
I do really like
Ray,
the 1990 movie.
Ray,
You know,
That
Deborah.
1990 movie.
Deborah. That's fucking. Everybody loves Raymond. It was the worst show ever. I don't know why anybody watches it. It's like Deborah.
Raymond,
Deborah, Raymond. It's like, no. But then again, I did watch Big Bang Theory all the way through, so what do I know?
I think I saw the first 5 seasons, but I thought it was kind of cute at first because they'd be like, "Oh my God, we have to get the new Battlestar Galactica Blu-ray," or like shit. Like I was like, "Oh, that's kind of funny. I know what that is. I know what they're talking about." But
They're Star Trek people. I did like the episodes with like Will Wheaton. And fucking,
Yeah.
LeVar Burton, and James Earl Jones, fucking Elon Musk was
Oh,
on
the
it one time.
Nimoy.
He's so awkward.
The Leonard Nimoy
with the
when
acting.
that Spock figure started talking to him in the dream. That
Yeah.
was cool.
Bob Newhart was a good guest star on that. It had its moments, but overall it was like pretty bland. And borderline racist at the beginning. Like Wolowitz would say some like kind of like very insensitive things about Indian people and would make fun of Rajesh
Oh yeah.
in ways that like they kind of backed off on in later seasons. Like this is a little laying it on thick here.
You know what? It's always good when you see an example of that. This is something like Jessie Gender and I talked about one time. And she said, when you see something like that, where something that we kind of thought was acceptable in the past, but now we're like, oh yeah, that is totally not acceptable. That's just a good indication of like, oh, we must have made some progress since then, or we wouldn't be able to make that realization. So that's kind of cool.
It's like they got rid of Apu because...
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that.
But there was a documentary called The Trouble with Apu.
Yeah.
And Harry Shearer in it says... No, not Harry Shearer. Frank Azaria, I think his name is. He does the voices on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
He was told to do the most... like be as offensive as possible in his accent portraying Apu Nahaspi Babylon. But anyway... The dude who directed that movie, he's like a comedian. I saw him in a like a store here, and I was like, "Oh my god, this guy's famous." And I swear it was him. I looked him up, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" I didn't say nothing to him. I'm like, "Oh my god, the guy who directed that Apu movie is like right there in this part of the world." It's like comedians do come here and do stand up at a local club, like. But yeah,
man, comedy's become like a huge thing in Austin this last couple of years. It's like I guess we have like a big comedy scene now. I don't know if it's from
That's
like
cool.
comedy is funny sometimes.
I think it's like because Joe Rogan is here now, but I don't know.
Mm.
I don't go to the shows, but it's starting to be a bigger thing.
Joe Rogan, I never heard of that guy. Does he have some kind of podcast?
He has the biggest, most listened to podcast in the world called The Joe Rogan Experience.
Speaking of podcasts, Jonathan Frakes was on Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Geek Filter brought it to all of our attention, and Jonathan Frakes liked the tweet and everything, but I subscribe. I listen to all of his episodes anyway.
It was Geek and Review, not
Geek and Review. What did I say?
Filter.
Yeah, true that. But he's he curses a lot, by the way. He says fuck a lot in the whole thing. Like, he seems like the most down to earth, like relatable, like you could hang out with him type of dude out of any other Star Trek person I've ever seen interviewed.
Yeah.
He seems like the most in touch kind of dude. And like he understands the business. Like he won't bash Modern Trek or anything, but he will acknowledge like it's a different style, and they talk about like Michael Rosenbaum talks about like the overcomplicated nature of some of the way they film stuff now, where like the camera has to spin around, they have to do this and that, and Frakes was like, yeah, sometimes you just want to get the cover, you just want to, paraphrasing, but anyway, he talks about like his directing, and Michael Rosenbaum is a really good interviewer. I find he asks really good questions. But he talked briefly about like coming back and filming Picard and stuff, and yeah, he's a fun guy, that Jonathan Frakes. By the way, Scream 6 is gonna have the biggest opening of any Scream movie.
Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega is fucking she's a big deal right now.
Dude, she is, dude. Jenna Ortega's a good actress. I like her.
And it's the one where Courtney Cox's character finally dies.
Oh, wow.
That would leave room for Neve Campbell if they pay her enough to come back. And probably
Courtney Cox totally looks like the Crypt Keeper, dude.
By the way, I don't know if Courtney Cox dies, but they have to kill off a legacy person every time, I believe. I don't know if it happened in 4. Who died in 4? That was huge.
I've never seen any of them past 3.
I recently watched 3, like a week or two ago.
I didn't like it.
I was like, oh yeah, Jay and Silent Bob are in it, and Carrie Fisher, who as somebody who looks like Carrie Fisher, that's really weird. She's like, I'm not Carrie Fisher, I just look exactly like her. It's like, okay.
I don't even remember
It's
that.
a weird movie, man.
And she makes a reference that the girl who got the part was the one that banged George Lucas,
Oh wow.
insinuating that she banged George Lucas. 3 is considered the worst Scream movie, but I still love it because it's so cheesy.
It's campy
bad.
as hell, but it
Yeah.
says it has
It's
its
so
camp
bad.
value. The dialogue is so different from the other movies. Like
And
the
then they
dialogue is so
edited it.
stagnant and bland, and
It was
just
supposed to have 2 killers, but they edited that out so that it's kind of awkward because the one killer is doing everything.
I actually do like the end when it's her brother, and he says the whole. It's really over the top, and the way that whole scene works out, I think, is pretty good.
No
And-
legacy character dies in Scream 4. It's Sydney's cousin that's doing it.
You know that trope of.
I just watched it yesterday.
You know that trope of like you got to shoot them in the head because they're never dead when they appear to be.
Right.
They really go over the top in 3, where he's clearly he's had to have been killed. Like there's no way, and then he pops up with like all the energy of somebody on 6 hits of adrenaline, and it's like no, but it's funny anyway. They shoot him in the head. But yes, Scream 6 is gonna be cool. I'm trying to drag it out to 47 now, 2 hours and 47 minutes.
Oh.
Scream 4 has my favorite beginning of all of them, even though it's terrible.
Scream 4 has the worst opening. It's not the worst. It's one of the better movies, though.
I love the opening. It's so crazy.
It's like, when is this nightmare going to end? Like, a movie within a movie within a movie. It's like, fuck
they're
this.
just like, they just go for it.
But Emma Roberts was really good in that movie.
Yeah.
And
Emma
to know
Roberts.
to know what her character is in the end, and then to rewatch it, and to see her play the game of the victim and stuff, it's like she's one of the better villains. But this time, Ghostface is in New York, and he has like a shrine. He or she has a shrine of like
Still
all the
Walker.
previous Ghostface, and like worships everybody who came before, and there's supposed to be more brutal violence. I don't know how. I don't think it's going to be ultra violent or anything. But there's supposed to be there's always violence. There's always stabby violence, but this time like Ghostface shoots people in the fucking head and stuff.
Oh wow.
I'm like, wow. And like he's in a convenience store and he's on the streets and it's like in a subway. I'm like, Jason Takes Manhattan was a huge disappointment because it was mostly on a boat. It should have been called Jason on a Boat. But if they can make Scream 6 take entirely, like the whole movie is all New York and they don't screw around and just have like the last half hour or 40 minutes, I think it's going to be good. And Courtney Cox, man, they play her up so much in the trailer, there's no way that she's making it out. And guess what? Wouldn't it be cool if it's like the killer was...
Courtney Khan.
No, Nev Campbell.
Nev
Dun, dun,
Campbell.
dun. She's like, I'm sick of this shit. I finally snapped.
Well,
Do you know Fast X or Fast 10 has a budget of $340 million?
wow, holy fuck.
Dang, that's crazy, man.
Something like that, yeah. 300. Indiana Jones is like 300 million, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. 294, I think it is.
Biggest budget. Let's drag it out to 47. I've got a list here. This is fun, folks. I'm going to let you go soon. God bless you, if you're religious. Mission Impossible 7, coming out this year. $290 million budget. Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom, $220 to $250 million budget.
Insane.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. keep in mind now, a movie has to make roughly 3 times its budget to break even. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, 250 million. The Little Mermaid, 200 million. That's no surprise because it's like so CG heavy.
Mm-hmm.
The
A lot of
Flash,
underwater stuff.
yeah. The Flash is 200 million. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, 200 million. The one out now, Aquaman and the Wasp: Quantumania, 200 million.
Wow, that movie cost.
John Wick Chapter 4 not available. Why do they have it in the fucking list then? That's stupid. Fast 10 budget. $340 fucking million for this movie.
Insane.
Let's do a little calculation. 340 times 3. This movie needs to make $1 billion to break even, which I guess it will.
Fast and the Furious is huge in China.
Mm-hmm.
Like it probably will make that money.
This shit makes a killing in China.
Do you know what the plot of Fast 10 is? Jason Momoa is the bad guy, right? He's like the son of one of the villains in Fast 5. So they redo Fast 5. They change history to where, like, you know, the safe heist in Fast 5. Fast 5 is one of the best action movies of the last 20 years, in my opinion. Like, no other Fast and Furious movie holds a candle to Fast 5. I don't know why they haven't been able to match the quality of that movie. It's crazy, but it's just like on that. It walks that fine line of being like too much. 6 starts getting into like, it's still kind of realistic, but at the end it gets really silly. And then 7 and 8, they're just like, we don't care anymore. And then 9 is like a dumpster fire. 9 is one of the worst movies, period, I've seen in like a good long time. Fast 9. But the plot of Fast 10 is, you didn't know this, but there's a flashback with Paul Walker's there and everything. They use footage from Fast 5. But we didn't know during this safe heist, Jason Momoa was one of the guys chasing them. And he got knocked into the water and almost got killed. So years later, what does Jason Momoa do? He wants to get revenge on Dominic Toretto. So he kidnaps his son. To get his... It seems from the trailer, it could be way more to the story than this, but it seems like to get his son back, Dominic must race Jason Momoa. And that's like the climax. Like, he has to beat Jason Momoa in a race. Then he gets his son back. And like, that seems to be the plot.
Oh.
It's all about family.
It's about family.
I've never seen a Fast and Furious movie.
I've only ever seen
if you're gonna watch any one, watch 5, and if you think that's any good, if you think it's like okay, then you won't like anything else. But if you think it's like pretty good, you may like one or the other movies, but I don't know. 5 and 6 aren't bad.
I feel like I should watch Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick is fucking good.
It's pretty good.
But Dave spoiled it for me. He told me about the F-14 Tomcat having to make a reappearance. I was like, I didn't want to know that.
Who cares?
Just the right touch of nostalgia.
Oh shit, we're past 47. Fucked up.
Oh no, you fucked it up. God damn it.
Now we gotta go another hour.
Yeah, we gotta.
No. We are gonna end it here, folks. It's late, but thank you for joining us. There's nobody watching right now, but nobody watches this far on the video either.
Jesus is
the
watching.
The analytics never show anybody watches past like 2 hours or something. Anyway,
the analytics don't know jack shit.
Goodbye, one random person that may be watching the very end of this video.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Bye.